Hello. My name is Matt Lucero, and I am super excited to be recording this whole module course for you because today we're going to be breaking down all the tools, tips, features, and everything inside of Smartlead. That way, whether you're a beginner or an expert, you're going to be able to fully utilize the whole platform, all the features, and everything inside of this amazingly powerful tool. So just so you know, what we're going to be covering across this whole course videos is basically taking a fresh Smartlead account that has nothing in it and getting it to the point where we're launching campaigns, we're sending emails, and all through the process, I'm going to talk about all the different features. That way you can best utilize this platform so you can ideally generate as much revenue as possible, book more meetings, or whatever objective you are trying to accomplish here. So what we're going to be talking about here in this video is number one, the Smartlead system kind of overview, all the different products and stuff inside the platform. We're going to be talking about all the different features at a high level, where the platform kind of fits in with any sort of modern outbound architecture, and just like super high level overview of all the different features. So I'm going to jump into my screen share here into this fresh Smartlead account. And I was supposed to actually start on a free trial, and I realized halfway through recording this course, I didn't have my audio on. So we're starting with an account that actually has a account enabled or a plan enabled. So anyways, we're going to go through all the different features here. So first, all the different features that are inside of Smartlead and what makes it so powerful. You have Smart Prospect here, which is the first thing you're going to see when you create a Smartlead account. This is where you can source leads. So this is one platform where you can source all kinds of different leads in their database that has over 300 million verified business profiles. So we're talking about first names, last names, job titles, company attributes. You can scrape leads to be able to sequence them at scale inside of this platform. Another thing you can do is create email campaigns. So you can set up email campaigns to be able to sequence people and reach out to people. Additionally, master inbox. This is where you can respond to all the people at scale. Email accounts. You can set up and create email accounts, and you can set it up in a way that the email accounts rotate. This is very important if you want your emails to land in the inbox folder. Smartlead's features are specifically built in the modern era of spam filters and all these different types of companies preventing you from trying to land in the inbox folder. So Smartlead has features like inbox rotation, warmup, deliverability features like smart delivery to be able to monitor your email accounts. So again, make sure you're hitting the KPIs you're looking for. So not only can you connect multiple email accounts, set them up in campaigns and rotate them in and out, you can also buy email accounts directly through here so you don't have to do the entire tedious process. You can store leads. You can have a CRM where you can manage all the pipeline views. You can integrate your favorite tools, whether that's your CRM like HubSpot, Clay, ListKit, LeadMagic, Outbound Sync, or whatever tools exist during the time of you watching this video. Client access. This is if you want to white label Smartlead. So if you have a software product that you want to use Smartlead on the back end for, you can use this. If you run an agency like I do, then you can use Smartlead to give access to your clients. Global analytics, this is where you can track all the email stats as you're running campaigns. Smart delivery, this is where you can test your email accounts to make sure they're working. Smart servers, this is again to enhance deliverability and give you private isolated IPs. And then smart agents, this is where you can set up custom and unique automations, whether it's to a tool like HeyReach for LinkedIn outreach, Slack, or a million other of the integrations they have and ones that they might have as you continue to see Smartlead grow and progress. This is being recorded at January 2026. And so the main note that I want to give you here is a platform might look a little bit different if you're watching this way in the future, whether it's a few months or a few years, but the principles will be the same. The platform will still functionally be used the same, and you will be able to watch all the features or use the features in a very similar way, and you can configure all your settings up here. So that's a high level overview. What we're going to be covering here in the initial modules is just high level overview of Smartlead, and then we're going to go and create campaigns. I'm super excited to be doing this here with you together because I've created hundreds, if not probably thousands or multiple thousands of campaigns. So you will be able to learn directly from someone who has spent years using this platform. So we're going to be doing a high level platform overview so you can locate all the different features inside of Smartlead. So this is really just going to be useful for you to understand where to click. So if you are trying to look for a specific thing inside of Smartlead, you can find it. So the first thing I'm going to start off here is on the left-hand tab. I'm going to talk about all the different features here. Then we're going to go into the settings tab. That way you can look at all the different settings and configure it as you please. So over here on the left-hand side, this is where you're first going to be met with its Smart Prospect. This is where you can generate leads. So if you're looking to generate leads, build lists, do all that type of stuff, you're going to click here on the handy dandy icon in the top left. And this is where you can start your journey of generating leads. If I want to look for people with a specific name or job title or whatever that might be, I can configure that here. Now, email campaigns. Whenever you have campaigns live, which I'm going to show you an active accounts example, this is where you can view this. You can view the active campaigns, the different stats, and all your high-level statistics at a high level. The master inbox is where you can view all the different responses. So as responses come in, you can view the stuff here, tag it, untag it, respond to emails, push it to your own email account. You can view all the different subheaders here. So if you want to look at unread replies, drafted replies by their smart agent, sends, important emails you mark as important, untracked replies, and all the other type of stuff, you can view that right here. Email accounts. As we set up email accounts, this is where you're going to be able to view this. Now, again, I tried recording this series and I realized my audio wasn't enabled. And so if you're on a free trial, this screen will look slightly different. But if you're on a paid account, it'll look something like this. All leads, this is, or all leads / CRM. This is where you're going to be able to see all the different leads that you're storing and creating through Smart Prospect and what stage they are in the pipeline if you use their CRM feature. Integrations, if you're trying to integrate things, this is where you can do that. Now, there's smart agent integrations, which is separate, and there's webhooks and API calls, which is separate, and we're going to get to here in a second. But if you want to use these 5 native integrations or however many there might be at the time of you watching this video, you can do that here. You can press Connect App, and you can get these things set up pretty quickly. Client access, this again is where you want to go if you want to add a client. So if I want to make a sub account for someone who is a client of mine, or if you're a software person trying to resell this, you can put their name, you can put their email, you can create a password, company name, manage permissions, all that type of stuff here. You can remove specific categories. So if you just want them to see interested responses, you can click in here and remove all the non-interested responses so they only see the active leads. You can set up custom scripts. So if you want specific snippets, analytics, all that type of stuff. If, again, you're using this as like kind of a SaaS reselling thing, you can allocate specific credits that they can use. You can create that. You can also white label this. I believe you have to reach out to support, but you can have it white labeled so it looks however you want for your customers. Global analytics, this is where you can see all the data. Smart delivery, this is where you can manage your tests. Smart servers, you can set this up here to isolate IP addresses. Smart agents, this is where you can set up the automations. And then let's go through the settings here. So the settings, this is where you can configure all your different types of settings. So if you want a custom kind of setup here for better deliverability and security through their OAuth configuration, you can connect that and test that here. If you want to integrate your own API key into Smartlead to make the AI a little bit more powerful, you can go to ChatGPT or OpenAI and get your API key and throw it in here. Smartlead API key. I'm going to reset this after here so no one messes with this account. But if you want to set up automations and configure things, you can copy this here, throw it in a make N8N custom code cloud, whatever you technical people want to do here, and set this up so you can create campaigns and use it for wherever you'd like. If you want to change your email, you can do that here. Security, this is changing your password and whatnot. Again, you can click in that to change your password. Webhook. What this section is used for is if you want to create any automations through webhooks. So again, if you're using make.com, N8N, anything similar to this, you can click into the webhooks tab and configure it here. So if I want to add a webhook, I can click this in, pick the event type, set the endpoint URL that I want to use. If I want to do this on a campaign level, client level, or an account level, I can test it here. Or if you want to configure with Slack. I know a lot of people ask, how do I get positive replies sent to my Slack channel or anything like that? This is how you set it up. Smartlead has a bunch of guides here between these 2 links on how to set up and integrate everything. And you can click these in so that you can see the most up-to-date version of this. API key management, again, as you might imagine, this is so you can manage your API keys and make sure everything is set up to your liking so you can set up automations. Blocklist, this is useful if you want to make sure you don't hit any leads. So if you put leads in here, anytime you upload a lead list, it will automatically screen these people out, whether these are existing clients for you, past clients, or just people you don't want to contact because they don't like you, then you can throw that in here. Team members, this is where you can invite people if you have people on your team that you want to collaborate with. You can throw in their email, their full name, their password, and pick the access level you'd like. Tag manager, this is useful if you want to segment out either campaigns or email accounts. Lead categories, this is if you want to create custom different ways of tagging people in the master inbox section. Warning notifications, this is if you want to get automations when stuff gets disconnected. And subscription, I already set this all up so that, I have a live account here. I did have a section here where I upgraded this, but again, I was forgot to record it. So anyways, that's a super high level overview. Now what I'm going to do is jump into a live account so you can see what all this looks like in action. And then we're going to go on and build this account out. So hopefully we can get closer to that section. Your first outbound architecture. More specifically, we're going to be talking about all the different kind of things you're going to need to build if you want a proper and coherent outbound system that we're going to be building through this kind of whole walkthrough. So just to give you a high level overview of what that looks like, the first thing that we're going to cover is leads. Whenever you want to build an outbound campaign, you need to target people, you need to reach out to people. And so we're going to talk about how you can find those people, how you can identify those people, how you can scrape those people, how you can get their emails, and how you can ultimately get your ideal client profile and your lead list situation all sorted. After you get your lead set up, then we're going to be talking about mailboxes. So if I can type mailboxes, mailboxes. There you go. So more specifically under mailboxes, what we're going to be talking about is warmup. So that is taking a email account in a domain and putting it in a warmup pool, which is where emails basically get traded back and forth, and your mailboxes build reputation. So we're going to talk about how to set up your mailboxes that you can send emails from and how to make sure that they get aged properly and have proper reputation. Additionally, we're going to talk about DNS settings. What does this mean? This is your domain kind of record settings that you're going to set up on the back end or that you can set up through Smartlead's program. So automatically, so that way that everything's kind of set up well so it can send and receive mail and do all of that. And then we're going to be talking about delivery. So more specifically, like the deliverability stuff, how you can set up your settings up appropriately so your mailboxes are configured correctly. From there, we're going to be talking about how to set up campaigns. So this is how to take all of the fun leads you have set up and the mailbox architecture that you have set up so that you can launch your campaign and start sending out emails. From there, we're going to be talking about the master inbox. So this is where you can respond to the leads that are coming in. You're going to have all these mailboxes set up with this beautiful architecture so you can send a bunch of emails. And from those mailboxes, you're going to have one central place where you can respond to things from. And then from there, we're going to be talking about deals. This is where you can manage your incoming responses, pipeline, how you can manage everything in a nice coherent view. That way you can track your deals. So that's a super high level. Now, where to take things from here? You are going to want to sign up to Smartlead. Sign up to Smartlead is as simple as going on their website, setting up a free trial. Now, to do all the things I'm going to kind of demonstrate here in the video, or throughout this whole journey we're going to go on together, you're going to want to get a paid plan properly. So I think Smartlead at the time of me recording this video, or as long as I remember, they have like a 14-day free trial. So after you get all set up, if you want to get a nice paid plan, you sign into your Smartlead account, you click your handy dandy name here in the top right, you go over to the subscription setting and you can see all the beautiful subscriptions that they had. Now, there's all kinds of new stuff. They actually just recently updated this. That's why I'm wearing a different shirt and might look a little bit different than in the rest of the videos, because they actually just updated the pricing to make it way better. Funny enough, I dropped my price a lot by the pricing changes they made. I'm a longtime Smartlead user and they just pushed out this pricing that saved me a bunch of money. So I'm excited to kind of talk through this. For most of you guys watching this video, if you're just kind of dabbling into cold email, you're probably going to want to do the $94 a month plan. This is what I recommend for most people. It gives you enough contacts, 30,000 contacts. So you can send, call it like 1,000 emails, maybe 2,000 emails per day. I don't believe that they cap you or they allow you to send 90,000 emails per month here. The base plan, this is really good if you're trying to like dip your toes in, like you barely want to send any cold emails. Now, the update to the pricing that they just made, and I'm going to try and move my beautiful face so you can see this here. The update that they made that did not exist, that actually saves a ton of money, is that at a certain point at this smart plan, you have unlimited contacts. They used to bill for contacts. And so before this update, I was paying, thousands of dollars, and all the other comparable tools on the market, I was paying thousands of dollars. And now with these updates, they bill you based on sending. So you can send, you can go here. If you want to send 1 million emails a month, it costs you $800 a month, versus in the past, whenever I was trying to send this type of volume on Smartlead or any comparable platform, it was costing me $3,000 or more a month. So they just updated their pricing. They have unlimited contact storage. If you're doing any sort of high volume sending, this pricing is a very, 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 very good. But if you're just getting started, would recommend the pro plan to pretty much everyone for if you're doing a reasonable amount of sending. So you're going to want to pick one of these. And then yes, if you want to follow along, I believe the smart delivery stuff you can get as well. They just rolled out the smart dialer. So all these kind of plans are, separate now. So if you want to check out all the pricing on all of the plans, you can click them up here. The pricing is obviously going to change with time, or the pricing may change with time is what I should say. So if you want to see the most up-to-date stuff, you can check that out here. But in short, if you're just jumping into it, do a free trial. $94 a month is probably going to get you most of everything you need. I also am using the smart delivery stuff, which I'm going to talk about. Smart prospect as well. And so if you want to see all the plans and stuff that I use, this is all here. So that's the smart lead plans. That's the outbound architecture. And I'm excited to embark on this journey with you. All right, so the moment you are all waiting for is here. Let's start off with building our Smartlead account out. And the way that we're going to start this off is with Smart Prospect. So Smart Prospect, just to give you a super high level overview, is Smartlead's tool that allows you to scrape leads and generate leads inside the platform, so you don't need to import things from anywhere else. They have a database in here of 300 million business verified profiles or verified business profiles. I can't speak right now. But anyways, you have this entire database at your disposal. You can push these straight into campaigns very easily. So just to give you a super high level, what is Smart Prospect? It is a feature inside of the Smartlead ecosystem that allows you to source and scrape leads and to be able to verify them and push them inside of your campaigns. You can also store them in here as well. Now, the first question you might be asking is, when should you use Smart Prospect compared to the other tools on the market? Now, this is really ultimately up to your preference. Smart Prospect's pricing is extremely aggressive. So you can, with the plan that I have, you can get 30,000 credits at the time of the recording this video. I think it's only $59. So again, just so you know, pricing may change up or down or whatever Smartlead does at their discretion. But point being is that this is very, very, very affordable for anyone. You can compare it to major tools on the market, and you will see this is an extremely cost-effective approach. Now, the question still begs, when should you use Smart Prospect compared to other platforms? If you are trying to source extremely local business type data that might not be available in a database like this, let's say you're trying to scrape Google Maps, that might be an example where you use a specialized Google Map scraper. If you're trying to find specific niche types of databases, there are tools on the market. So at a super high level, Smart Prospect is a generalized database. If you want to get people, find their companies, get their emails, and do it in all one fell swoop, in a general sense, this is a great tool for doing it. Now, if you have a very specialized small target market and you don't feel like that these lead stuff here on the left side are capturing it, that's when it makes sense to use another tool. So if you're trying to go after local HVAC businesses in your area and it is not available to the degree that you want on Smart Prospect, that's when you look at other tools. Now, I could rattle off a bunch of other tools. This, I don't want to promote any other tools necessarily in this video, but you can go out and find them, or you can see other videos where I talk about other lead gen tools. This is not the only tool, but this is an amazing tool if you're trying to be cost effective with your outreach, centralize everything in one place, and capture a lot of data for a really, really, really good price. So this is another feature that I'm going to talk about. You can see here it's coming soon, and I want to just say this again because we're recording this in January of 2026, that this isn't fully released yet, but Smartlead also has an AI search feature coming. And what this search feature will allow you to do is type stuff in this AI search section and have it populate here on the left side. As you can see, and you can watch the demo and whatever's here at the time of recording, it's very intuitive. You can type product managers at SaaS companies between 100 and 200 employees in San Francisco. You can search it and it will populate the fields here on the left-hand side. You can also just do it manually. So this is a super high level introduction to Smart Prospect. In the next video, we're going to actually talk about finding leads in your ideal client profile and demonstrate the platform in actions. Let's talk about building lists inside of Smart Prospect. So we're going to go ahead here and utilize the platform. So first thing we're going to want to do if we want to build our list is look over here on the left-hand side, and you can see all these different features. Now, before you start clicking buttons and go crazy, what I would recommend after building so many lists and so many campaigns is to sit down and think about who are the people that are actually in your target market before you go doing all these filters. So you might want to ask yourself, what are the headcounts? What are the job titles? Before you sit down and configure this, I would say step one is figure out who your ideal client profile is. You can do that by looking at your existing customers, past, present, whatever. Now, once you're ready and you've determined who you want to reach out to and what those filters look like, you can go over here on the left-hand side and play around with these filters. One of the first ones I'm going to talk about is the industry. So let's say I want to find specific industry type businesses. Let's say manufacturing. This is a really common one. I can go ahead here, tick that box, and it'll go ahead and start finding people. So you can see they have found millions of people in the manufacturing space because there's a million or millions of people out there in the manufacturing space. Now, what you probably are looking at here is not what you want to export because we haven't done any other filtering. So you can layer on all these different filters however much you see please. That way you can get a very targeted slice of the market, and so you can tactically reach out to people and not just spam the market for people that don't want your services. Not only will spamming people that don't want your stuff not be efficient or a smart use of your time, it can also hurt your email deliverability, which we're going to talk about here in the next section. So you want to make sure that you be as pinpoint and accurate with these filters as possible. So the first one is industry. We're going to go through some of the company level attributes, then we're going to move on to the people one. So other things you can do here is keywords. So if I want to go even more specific and say I don't want just people in manufacturing, I want people in textile manufacturing or all the million different types of stuff here. I think if you just type different keywords, so I can put like steel as an example. I want steel manufacturing companies. I can tick the steel box and it'll look for people that have these keywords. Now, you can see here that massively narrowed down our search, as it should, because there's not a ton of all the manufacturing companies. Probably most of them don't deal with manufacturing steel, and so this will layer this in. My understanding of how keywords works is that it scrapes the websites and it looks for the websites that have these keywords. So this isn't going to be all-encompassing and perfectly have a list of people that manufacture steel. These are manufacturing industry-based companies that have the keyword steel. So they could be doing all kinds of other stuff and mention steel on their website. So this will directionally get you closer. You can layer on more of these. So if I want more, I want steel and I want machining, I can type the word machining, and let's see here. That's another keyword that I can tick in. If I do that, it'll load here for a second. You can see it expands out more of our lead search here because it looks for people that have the word steel or machining in our list. From here, I'm going to go on to some of the other features. We can go over into headcount. So if I can go to specific sizes of people, let's say I want medium-sized manufacturing companies. So 100 employees to 1,000 employees, I can tick that over. Again, it'll rerun its search, and I can go on and on and on. Now, this is highly selective and dependent on who you're trying to reach out to, what your product is, and a million other factors. So this is just V1. I'm just putting together a sample search. You're obviously going to want to configure this to your liking. From here, I can go to specific job titles. So again, I'd imagine if you're reaching out and doing some type of sales level outreach, you probably don't want to reach out to super junior people. Let's say I want to go to the owners and founders. I can go over here and type owner, and then it'll show the owner keyword here, and I can type founder. And again, I'll just go and keep this going. So founder, there we are. And then I can continue to layer on more and more and more. I can also write an exclusion. So let's say we don't want co-founder. So I can put an exclusion list of co-founder or co-owner or whatever it might be. So I can get exact matches on specific job titles. And again, I can go on and on and on. This process, I'm just speed running it for the sake of demonstration. This process can take anywhere from a few minutes to 20 minutes or 30 minutes between just making sure that everything is ironed out. Now, there's also a lot of features here if I want specific people. So if I want to search up myself, I could put Matt Lucero for first name and last name or full name. I could put in specific domains. So you can get as granular as you want if you want to do an account-based marketing type of approach. And then you can take things from here. Again, there's sub-industries. There's all kinds of different stuff here. Country, location, state, location info, city. So if I want people in a specific geographic region, I can do that as well here. I can also filter by people that I have reached out to in the past, or owned or not owned already. So if I want to just make sure I'm getting net new people, then we can do that here. So if I'm ready to go, we can see we have 529 leads here. I can either select a specific number of leads, so I can pick 99 or 100 out of these people, or I can select all, which in this case is 529, or I can press select all. So I'm just going to press select all. I'm going to press apply, and then I'm going to press find emails here. Now you can see here, it's just going to confirm and make sure that we're okay with using the credits, because if we press this button, it's going to use 529 credits. Now, before I do this, I'm going to save this filter. That way I can reference this back moving forward. So I'm going to do steel/machining companies, and then I'm going to make this 1/3/26 because that's the date. And I'm going to put, I like to do like 100 to 1,000 E. So I know the employee filters that I'm doing as well here. So I'm going to save this filter. That way I can reference the search in the future. I'm going to find the emails, and then I'm going to press find emails. And it's going to start fetching these leads, which is going to take a second here. And then ta-da, now we have all these leads saved inside of our platform. You can see it's trying to verify the leads, getting everything all set up for you here. It's going to verify the emails to make sure that they're good to send. Some people don't have emails, some people do. And so it's going to continually run through this process. Now, as it's running through here, you can see it's updating it. It's real-time verifying everything. So that way you can just take these and push these directly into campaigns. And if I'm ready to push these into campaigns, once it's all kind of set and ready to go, I can select all of these people and I can press push leads to campaign. Now, we don't have the campaign set up, so this is just V1 here. So we can set up all these, leads or get them all ready to go. And then when we're building out our campaigns, we can push these people in here as well. We talked about how to use Smart Prospect to find your lead list. We're going to talk about how to actually use the leads from Smart Prospect in your campaigns. So just to recap where we left off, Smart Prospect here on the top left, you can see all of the settings here. You can see this list that we built down here. So if we want to click into this, again, not to confuse you, this is the list of people. These are lists of the searches we made, or the saved searches. So this is a list of people. We can click in here and it'll take us to this tab that I'm already in. And now we can see of the 469 people, there's 107 verified emails and 67 catch-alls. Now, I only like to send a verified, so I'm going to select verification status verified. And this brings me the 100 in however many people that are good and ready for me to email. So I'm actually going to make sure I select catch-all status as verified. We're going to have the 100 or however many people or so that are verified emails, which some of them I believe are catch-all verified. Point still stands. We have our verified list here. Now, if we want to use this in the campaign, we can tick this box, select all 153 people. So this includes the total emails, or the total emails plus the verified emails plus the catch-all emails that they could find and select are valid. So anyways, these are the people that are good to go by Smart Lead System that they have verified. Now, there's two options we can do here. The first option is we can push these leads directly to a campaign. And so we can create a new campaign. I'll call this test. I'll press next. And then it'll offer a few options here of how we want to import these leads. So import the leads even if they're in the global block list. If we have a global block list, we probably don't want to override that. Same thing with the unsubscribed list. Import leads even if they're in the bounce across user base list. I usually like to have this enabled, and then ignore leads that exist in other campaign. This is useful if you have multiple campaigns. You want to make sure you're not overriding the leads there, which I like to have this on in most cases. And then we're going to press create and add to campaign. And just with a couple clicks of a button, ta-da, we have this campaign created and these leads are pushed to them. So now if I go into this other tab here, email campaigns, you can see the test campaign is created, and you can see here that we have the 153 leads that we just scraped from a Smart Prospect. Now, the other option is that we can go over here. I can select these same 153 people that are verified and are the good catch-all emails on their end, and I can press export as CSV. What this will do is it'll give me the downloaded list of all these people. And so now if I want to manually upload a list, I can go over here to the import leads tab and import your existing contact list. I can just drag and drop the same list here. And then now I can re-upload it, gives the same prompts and questions. And then the only difference here is that it asks you to map the field. So if I want to add LinkedIn profile or anything like that, then I can tick that box and press save and next. And this will also upload the leads. Now I'll let this upload for a second here. You can see that none of the leads actually uploaded. It says 153 uploaded, but 153 are existing. So if I go back out of here into the campaign tab, you can see that there's only 153 people actually still in the list because it just filtered out all the duplicates for us, which is really nice. So in any case, this is how you take the leads, upload them. Smart Prospect, you can download leads from here. You can verify the leads. You can push them straight to campaigns. And now you have a beautifully set up campaign here that we can send to. Now that we have the campaign set up, we still need to set up the email accounts to be able to send from and all the copy and all the other stuff. All right, pre-warmed mailboxes. More specifically, what they are, why they're a thing in the first place, what the pros and cons are, and then how to set them up if you want to purchase them. So first, let's get the whiteboard out here. What is a pre-warmed mailbox? A pre-warmed mailbox is an email account or a mailbox that has already had warmup or email reputation set up for you. So that way you can start sending from it day one and be able to get maximum deliverability. Now to unpack that a little bit more, whenever you are sending cold emails, you want to have email reputation prior to sending them out. So if you just set up a mailbox completely fresh with no reputation and you start sending a bunch of mail, you are going to get blocked and thrown in the spam folder. And the reason why is because Google and Microsoft and these trillion-dollar companies want to make sure that emails that are getting through to the main inbox folder are from trusted senders and people that have reputation. So if you set up a new email account with zero reputation, they are going to basically not let your emails get in the inbox folder, or if they do and you do any little tiniest thing, they're going to send you to the spam folder. And by having reputation and having your emails do warm up, which warm up is basically trading emails back and forth between other people on the network, by having warmup enabled before these email accounts are going, now this email account has reputation and it should be able to make it through spam filter. So effectively, what a pre-warmed mailbox is a mailbox that has already been warmed up, meaning that it has email activity already done for you so that you can start sending from it day one. Now, the pros of this is that you can start sending up day one. Alternatively, which we're going to talk about in another module, is non-warmed up mailboxes. Whenever you use non-warmed up mailboxes, you need to purchase them and then wait 14 days to 21 days to get them all kind of aged and warmed up so you can send from them. So that's the main kind of pro and con. I'll outline the pros here. So pros is speed. You can get these set up and start sending same day. So that's the main pro. Now, the con here is the cost. They cost a little bit more. And the other con here is the naming. So because I'll go through this quickly. So pros, very straightforward. If you purchase a pre-warmed mailbox, you can start sending today and have good deliverability. Now the cons are the cost. It costs a little bit more, and the naming. Whenever Smartlead sets up these email accounts for you in the domains, they pick the names of the accounts and they pick the domains. The reason why, obviously, they need to have something set up to be able to give to you. And so if something is set up like earlier, that means you don't get to pick the name. They already have a pool set up. So if you have your company and your company is google.com, you might not be able to get, or you very likely won't get, an email that says google.com or have a name that is yours. It'll be a random name and a generic sounding domain. Now, I'll tell you, again, I run an agency. I've sent millions of emails. I've run with pre-warmed domains. It does not affect performance in our experience at all. So take that with a grain of salt, or as you will. We've run tons of split tests. We have customers who we've transitioned from pre-warmed onto, custom branded domains, and we found the performance to be identical. And so really the naming is more of a preference thing. I just bring that up because some people really want it to be their own name and their branding and whatever. But the main objective thing is cost. So you get quicker speed, it's more expensive, and you don't get to pick the names. So for a lot of people out there who just want to get started fast and don't really care about the name because it doesn't really affect performance, you can get this set up. So to set this up, all you gotta do is head over to your email accounts tab here, press purchase mailbox, and then it'll give you an option here to purchase pre-warmed mailboxes. So now to do this, you press continue, and then it'll give you the names of all the different pre-warmed mailboxes you can purchase. Now remember, they let you pick. So you don't get to pick the name exactly. What these companies do is they pick these generic sounding names. That way you who could run a marketing agency, a staffing company, any type of business, a software business, service business, you can pick one that sounds good to you. So like this one, maybe I like Inbound Field Pro because we're a service business and you like the word field in it. Cool, you can press this to the cart, or you can press buy now. Same thing here. So send RevOps, you can just pick any of these, and there's pages and pages and pages. And then you can also see what the mailbox are named. So again, they use generic names because, you know, they need the mailbox set up. So if I like this, let's say I like I'm going to do the send RevOps here. I can either press add to cart or buy now. I'm going to press buy now. It's going to ask for the forwarding domain. So what this is going to do is it's going to basically ask me, if someone clicks on this domain, where does it push to? So this is where you type in your main domain. So for me, this would be anivomarketing.com. And then I can press next. And then it'll offer me to pay. So I can just press make secure payment. And you can see when we go into the next module here and we talk about the normal domains, these are a little bit more expensive. You pay a premium to get stuff up and running faster, but this is really, really useful for people that prioritize speed and want to get up and running today. So if you press make secure payment, it will get this all set up and then it'll load into your email accounts tab ready for you to use. So that's pre-warmed mailboxes at a super high level. On the next module, we will talk about the non-pre-warmed mailboxes. We talked about pre-warmed mailboxes. Now let's talk about the smart senders, just regular mailboxes. So like I talked about in the last video, if you have an email account and you want to send from it without getting blocked or to have good reputation with time, it needs to have reputational history. It needs to have a clean IP and have some experience sending emails to other people. So now we're going to talk about regular or non-warmed mailboxes. So the pros of doing this is that it is cheaper. And then you have more flexibility on the names. So you get to pick the names. You can name the domains, the email accounts, whatever you want. You have a little bit more flexibility there. Now, the cons is you got to wait 14 days to 21 days plus. Now, there are, I'm just going to put 14 plus. Now, there is no hard rule. You know, this is all just best practice from, cold email community. 14 days is the best practice from at least most of the people I talk to. And in our agency, this is the best practice that we use. You can technically start sending from them right away. Now, what probably will happen is your email accounts will get blocked or will have issues delivering at a much worse rate, which is why I don't recommend doing this unless you wait the 14 days. And so we'll talk about this, but basically the con here is you got to wait. So I'm going to show you here how you can set these up instead. And you can set them up through either provider, Google, Microsoft, or whatever. So I'm going to go over here into purchase mailbox. I'm going to go over here to purchase smart senders, and then it's going to show you all the different options. So there's Google, there's Outlook, and there's SMTP. Now in the next module, I'm going to talk about SMTP because it's a little bit of a different beast, but you can see here, Smartlead has multiple different vendors you can pick. So just to be clear, these aren't owned by Smartlead. This is more like a marketplace where you can just use other providers. So we have Zapmail, InboxKit, Pager, MailReef, Infra Inbox, all different kinds of providers you can choose from. Now, if I want to pick one, which in this case we'll use Zapmail as an example, I'm going to click this first button, and then I'm going to type my domain name. So luckymarketingabc.com. or whatever your domain name is. As you can see here, here's a bunch of different permutations that you can purchase. So you can see suggested domains. Now you can pick up to 20. You can do multiple orders, so you can pick as many as you want. I'm just going to pick one here. You can see it's $13 a year for the domain. Now, if I want to continue forward here, it's going to ask what you want to name the mailboxes. So I'm going to name Matt Lucero because this is my name. You can name it anyone on your team. You can add a profile picture. So if I want to go over here and do that, we're going to be talking about SMTP mailboxes. Now, the reason why we're separating this out is because Google and Microsoft are the big two players when it comes to email. They're both trillions dollars of companies. Your email is probably a Google email or a Microsoft email, and almost anyone you're reaching out to is going to be having a Google or Microsoft email. So that begs the question, why SMTP, and what even is SMTP? SMTP emails are emails that are not registered under Google or Microsoft. These are like private servers. So similar to, when you send out like a newsletter, you're probably not sending out a newsletter from your main Google or Microsoft account. You're probably using a third party, which use an SMTP or a private server. Now, the pros of using an SMTP is usually they are substantially cheaper and that there's no regulation kind of built into the server. So Google and Microsoft, let's say you set up a mailbox and you start sending, 10,000 emails. These two entities, they will ban you. They'll kick your email account because they think you're doing something weird. Now, you're probably gonna have spam issues along the way, so your 10,000 emails might not get sent. But Google and Microsoft also have the ability to just suspend your email account because they own it. Now with an SMTP, this is totally private. So it's private and isolated. You can technically do whatever you want. Now, SMTP provider can kick you out. That's a separate story. But if you want to send 10,000 emails a day, you technically could. Now, I don't recommend you do it. I recommend you treat SMTP similar to how you treat Google and Microsoft, which again begs the question, why Google or why SMTP? Usually it's cost. SMTP is usually cheaper and you have less kind of rules or regulations, but still the spam stuff still applies because you are then sending to Google and Microsoft. So SMTP, it's just a slightly different setup. You're not purchasing it through the big dogs. You're purchasing it through a private vendor. Now, if you go over here to Smart Senders, which is Smartlead's platform, and you want to make a SMTP setup, you can go over to Purchase Smart Senders, and you can go over to SMTP, which is powered by Mailreef. Now, there's a bunch of other providers. Again, for the sake of this, we're going to be doing the Smart Sender setup. Now, I can go over here and select domain and get the setup. But you can see this is the cheapest of all of them. This is $3.99. So if all you care about is cost, it is a little cheaper. You can see the delivery time is 2.5 hours, which looks like it is the lowest out of any of these setups here. So there is a pro to using an SMTP setup if you look at it through that lens. So that's a super high level comparison. Now, last thing I'll say about SMTP, your mileage may vary. There's usually deliverability differences. Now, at a high level, I don't want to make overgeneralizations because every setup is different. What I found is that Google and Microsoft setups tend to be a little bit more reliable. The main reason why is because the IPs are managed through Google and Microsoft. Instead of SMTP, they're not managed through a provider necessarily. And so providers might flag them at a higher rate because they're not managed by Google or Microsoft. Now, this is purely speculation. I just want to say this, that there is the deliverability rules change all the time. I've had plenty of periods where SMTP has performed better than Google or Microsoft, and I've also had periods where they perform worse. So there is some variance here. I just want to prove the point that it is almost like a separate bucket of its own, and it has its own pros and cons. So if you want to set that up, you can set that up through Mailreef here, or you can bring in your own SMTP setup. Last thing I'll say is that SMTP setups tend to have more variance compared to Google or Microsoft because, again, some people can set up their servers in a really poor way. Again, I'm not going to vouch for Mailreef necessarily, but I know they're on here for a reason because they manage their IPs pretty well. So super high level, that's SMTP. That's the pros and cons, and that is the differences between Google and Outlook. I'm going to go through and actually purchase an email account so you can see what that process looks like start to finish. We're going to do it with the pre-warmed mailboxes because that is quicker and that's what I want to demonstrate. So I'm going to go over here to pre-warmed mailboxes. This is where I can select all these different types of mailboxes and see all my different options. So I can look for Google providers or accounts, or I can look for Outlook providers or accounts. So I'm going to look just for whatever speaks to me at this moment. I see this Google one. I like it. This one's called adsetapp.com. If you want to pick a domain name, again, if you're doing pre-warmed, you don't have flexibility over the names, the exact names at least. So you can go over here and pick the domain that you like. I'm going to go over here and purchase this AdSetApp domain right here. I'm going to press buy now. I'm going to pick a forwarding domain. So you can pick the domain that this points to. I'm going to use my agency's website, so anivomarketing.com. And then I'm going to press next. So just to be clear, what this is going to do is if someone goes to adsetapp.com, it'll push to my domain. That way they can see my domain and the offer will be relevant. I'm going to press next here. And then I'm going to make the secure payment. And what this will do is it'll charge my credit card on file, I believe, and then it'll have the email accounts import into my account. So I'm going to let the payment go through, and then I will, here we are, payment went through. I just wanted to see. So there we are. All right, that didn't take nearly as long as I thought, and there you go. So now it says payment is successful. Your end domains will be activated within 24 to 48 hours and will be visible in your domains tab. So as you saw here in the purchase mailbox section, it does take time for stuff to get set up. It's not necessarily instant. So we're going to talk about in some of the other tabs how to, instantly connect domains if you want stuff that you're providing. But just know that the Smart Senders orders, they tend to process pretty quickly, but you can see it gives you kind of the status order of where things are. And then once everything is set up, you will see it in your email accounts tab here for you to use. So that is the smart senders. That's how you set up a domain. If you want to manage your domains, you can do that here. If you want to configure any of the settings, you can look at that here. And if you want to look at any of your orders to view the invoice or reference anything moving forward, you'll see that in your orders tab up here. So that's how you purchase a smart sender domain. All right, how to adjust settings for email accounts and how to do it in bulk. So basically, there's a few settings here inside of Smartlead that you can configure with the accounts. First, you can do this all in kind of the main tab here. I'm going to move my beautiful face. So you can do this in the main tab. So you can click in overview, you can click in general. You can set messages per day, minimum time gap. So this is how many cold emails per day, not including all total emails. Let me turn on this light so I have a little bit more light on my face. There we go. So you can see your total cold messages per day, minimum time gap. So let's say we want 20 minutes in between, what we're sending. Signature. This is where you can put, actually, I'm going to move my face back here. You can put your first name, your last name, all your company information, blah, 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 blah. And this is what will be at the end of your email. So if you want to do first name, last name, or in my case, Matt Lucero, company name, blah, 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 blah. You can insert links, images, whatever you want. I personally wouldn't recommend that for deliverability reasons. You can add a CRM email so that it will BCC all of your emails sent, so you can have it logged in your CRM. Custom domain tracking. So if you want to set up a custom domain tracking thing, as talked about in one of the other videos, the way that you do this is you go inside of your DNS settings, inside of one of your accounts. Let me actually show you how to do this real quick here. Alrighty, so we are inside of Pork Bunny here. So if I go over here into the edit DNS settings button here, I can see all the different DNS settings. Now, if I want to add a custom tracking domain, which will help improve deliverability if I am sending to, if I'm sending links or images, again, I have to keep moving my face. All I have to do here is add this little code here with a CNAME record. So it sends here. So I'm going to go over back again to Pork Bun. I'm going to go over here and put CNAME record. Again, this is the same, or no matter what registrar you use, it just might look slightly different. And then host, I'm going to, you can name this whatever you want. So I'm going to just call it like tracking.whatever.com. And then I'm going to paste this in here. And then I'm going to do this inside the answer. I'm going to press add. And now, so my main domain here is get test domain for smartleadvideo.com. If I go here and I type tracking, which was the little header thing I put in, you can name this whatever word you want, dot get test domain for video.com, and I press check status, you can see it's verified. If I did this wrong and I did, check status, it'll say not verified. So make sure you do this right. Again, if you put the code in, you put CNAME, you put this in the header section, and then you put a prefix in the host section, wherever you want to do it. I called it tracking, and that works. And then if I press save, which is where my face is, you'll just have to believe me, it's all saved. If you go to warmup, this is where you can adjust all your warmup settings. I cover this in a different video where I talk about warmup. If you want to tag your email accounts, so you want to tag the ones that are in warmup, not in warmup. If you want to tag ones that are Google or Microsoft or whatever you want to do, you can do that here. If you want to add to a specific client, which we'll talk about in a different module, you can do that here. Now, if you want to do this in bulk, it's literally the exact same process, except you tick this box. Now, I only have one email account, so if I press select all, it's literally the exact same settings, but you can just do this in mass. So if you have 50 email accounts, 10 email accounts, 4,000 email accounts like I have, you can change stuff pretty quickly here. You can add client tags. So if you just onboard a new client, let's say you're an agency, you can assign to a client, do this, press save, type confirm, boom, boom, boom. And that's how you get that set up. So that's how you adjust the accounts in bulk. Again, bulk update, you can change all your tags and custom stuff here, which is talked about in other videos. You can change your signatures, custom tracking domains, all this stuff. And if you want to set up your custom tracking domain, you click in and you click into general, you paste it into your DNS records like I talked about earlier, and you should be all set. Warmup, basically what it is and how does it work and why you should always have it on. So first of all, let's define warmup. What is warmup? Warmup is the process of basically sending emails back and forth between other people on Smartlead's network. So that way your email accounts gain reputation. So Let's say, as an example, you spin up a new email account. I'll just say, hypothetical, you have your new email account here and it has zero reputational history. And what will end up happening is as you send cold emails, your email account reputation will just decline. And if you do this long enough, your emails will start landing in spam. And so the point of warmup is basically to mitigate this downward curve of reputation so your emails continually land in the inbox. Now, again, warmup doesn't cure everything. Warmup is basically just a mechanism to try and continually make sure that your email accounts are healthy. Now, no matter if you have the perfect warmup settings enabled, if you send bad cold emails that constantly get people to report you as spam, warmup is not going to save you. So just to be clear, warmup is not the cure-all everything that makes it so all your emails automatically land in the inbox. It's basically just a mechanism that increases the likelihood chance that you land in the inbox by, encouraging positive behavior on your email accounts and signaling to all the email providers that your email account is doing positive activity. So again, it's not a cure-all. It is basically just emails getting traded back and forth on their network. That way, your emails have a more probable chance of landing in the inbox. I say this all to say that it is helpful, but it does not cure everything. And so that's my main point here. So that's what email is or email warmup is. Now, to be able to set this up inside of Smartlead, it is very simple. So if you go over here inside of Smartlead in your email accounts tab, you can either do this on a singular account or in bulk. So if you're doing it in bulk, all you have to do is, check this box and then you can bulk update all these settings I'm about to show you here in mass. Or what I'm going to do is do this on a one-off case. So I'm going to click into this email account here, and I am going to click into warmup. Now, there's some default settings here. I can't honestly tell you all the different nuances between which is the best performing, the worst performing. I will just tell you what I do, and you can replicate that if you'd like. So inside warmup here, you can, they have this nice algorithm where you can adjust all the settings. If I go over here, I can adjust how many warmup emails will be sent per day. Here, I can adjust the ramp rate. So if you have a fresh email account, you don't want to just blast 40 emails at a time. You want to slowly kind of ramp it up to simulate human behavior. Randomization. So this will randomize the number of emails sent, again, to mimic human behavior. And then reply rate. So this shows what % of the warm-up emails you're sending are getting responded to, which again will help increase engagement and make your accounts have better behavior. So these are all the settings here. For reference, these are Smartlead's default settings I just showed you. I usually like to tone it down a little bit. Usually I do about 30 warm-up emails per day with a range of about 20 to 30. And a reply rate, again, this is kind of subjective. I've tested all kinds of different numbers. And so I can't tell you with absolute certainty that this is the perfect setting, but I usually do it somewhere around 40%. But the default is 20, the maximum is 100. You can do somewhere in between, and this is what my default kind of setup is. However, everyone has their own best practice. I know people that do it higher. I know people that do it lower. This is just me talking about my experience specifically inside of here. And if I want to go ahead and enable warmup, I'm just going to leave these settings as is. I'm going to press enable warmup, and now warmup has been enabled. So you can see now here it says warmup enabled. Now with time, this reputation will build up. Effectively, what this tells you as this data starts to populate is it'll tell you what percentage of your mail is landing in spam or not. So this will also give you kind of insights into whether your accounts are likely landing in spam or the inbox in live campaigns. So what this graph will tell you here as it kind of ramps up with time will show you what proportion of your warm-up emails will be landing in the inbox folder. Now, in addition to all this other stuff, you have tags here. So in your warm-up emails, it'll have these specific keywords that'll get filtered out. So if you are doing any sort of manual filtering in your mailboxes, you can configure those here. And there's a few more settings here. You can send warm-up emails only on weekdays to kind of simulate, again, human behavior, warm up your custom tracking link, or enable Smartlead's kind of own ratio of how they like to adjust their warm-up settings. And so all these things can be configured inside of this panel here very easily. And as this, kind of warms up for a little bit, then you will see a reputation pop up here. Now, best practice, Smartlead shows us inside of here is about 14 days that you should do this before running campaigns. So you can see this nice little timer here will tell you when you have warmed up successfully for 14 days. And so you can keep kind of track of how long your emails are warming just by doing that. So that's Smartlead's warm up network, and that's how you enable it. And those are the high level kind of overview points there. All right, so real quick, I'm going to be talking about Smartlead's auto adjust warm up ratio kind of algorithm here. Now, to set this up, if you want to enable the setting that I'm going to talk about here, all you have to do is click into your account, click into your warm-up settings, and click enable auto adjust warm-up setting ratio. Now, what this setting does inside of Smartlead is it automatically balances the amount of sending that you're doing with your warm-up behavior. So more specifically, what this will do is it'll make it so you send 30 cold emails and you'll send 10 warm-up emails at a 100% reply rate. Now, the thought process behind this is that if you are not running campaigns, it'll also correct it in a different direction. So what this will do is it will kind of ramp your email accounts normally as it would in the typical warm-up settings. But when you launch campaigns, it'll adjust your warm-up emails down and jack up the reply rate. That way it can send or give more positive intent and have it be a smaller proportion of the emails that you are sending whenever your campaigns go live. Again, the thought process here is this helps improve deliverability and kind of makes it more autopilot for you to manage your warm-up settings and your cold email settings without changing too many functions here. Now, this is not a necessary setting, so you don't need to have this enabled. Basically, what this will do is auto adjust your settings to what Smartlead thinks is the best option. And if you want to enable this, you do this here. Now, note, this will override your settings. So you can see here, I have 30 warm-up emails. If I were to launch a campaign and have this setting enabled, it will drop this down to 10 and it will change the reply rate to 100%. Now, this won't be reflected in the settings, but it will be reflected in your kind of behavior here, your warm-up behavior, and it gives you this little notification that you have this enabled whenever you do. So that's how you enable the setting. If you want to do this, again, I'm trying to move my face. If you want to enable it, you just go over here and you press update and you are all set. I'm going to be talking about ramping up your email accounts. So whenever you have your email account set to warm up, you're going to want to ramp up your sending volume. The reason why you want to do this is because if you have a fresh account and you send a bunch of emails straight out the get-go, it does not look like human behavior and it can also cause you issues. And so if you have a fresh account, what you're going to want to do is go over here to the warm up tab section here, enable daily ramp up. And what this will do is whenever you warm up your emails, it won't start by sending 30 per day. It'll start by sending 5 per day. Then the next day it'll send 10, then 15, 20, 25, and 30. And then we have it set so it randomizes between 20 and 30 in perpetuity. And so what this setting will do is ramp up your email activity. And this is very useful for fresh email accounts, and I would highly recommend it. I'm going to explain what the DNS records mean because a lot of you guys out here are going to hear this terminology, and it's pretty important, not super insanely important, but it's pretty important to understand what these records mean and basically what they are at a very high level so you know how to set them up and how to use them. Now, in the other videos, I'm going to actually tactically show you how to set them up. This is more a video just defining what they mean and what they do and how they work so you can understand and have full context. So DNS records, these are all the records that you're going to set up on your domain. So again, not to confuse a domain with a mailbox. A domain is like google.com. A mailbox is like matt@google.com. So MX record, what does this record mean? It stands for mail exchange record. What this record basically does is it points to Google or Microsoft or SMTP or whatever the server is. It points to a server. That way, whenever a recipient is getting mail, that it knows who to send the mail back to. So you say, hey, I'm part of Google's network, send the mail to Google so it comes to me. That's why you set up an MX record. Pretty much any software that you set up a domain for, they're automatically going to set this up for you. SPF record, same idea. It's like you're designating authority to a provider like Google or Microsoft. You're saying, hey, Google and Microsoft have authority over my email account. So same idea. You're just pointing to a server to let them know that, yes, Google is the provider that I'm using. And again, this is a mandatory record that is set up. So these two records are mandatory that you set up. Otherwise, your email won't even work. So anytime you set up like an email account of any provider or anything, they will force you to set up these records. Otherwise, your mail just won't work. Now, DKIM and DMARC, these are technically non-mandatory records. Now, you should always set them up, but think of it like this. Your MX record and your SPF record, these are like your birth certificate and something else, right? These are records that every single person has. It's just a birth certificate. If you don't have it, then you don't even exist in the sake of the governing body. Your DKIM and your DMARC are like your driver's license and your passport. So technically, while you don't need a driver's license and passport, if you are living a day-to-day life, you're probably going to need a car or some sort of form of identification. And so that's what DKIM and DMARC kind of act as. They are records that show the, authoritative email server people, whatever, that you are legitimate, and it's a secondary form of identification. Now you do this so, again, your emails get delivered better. Now DKIM, these records aren't automatically set up for you. If you use smart servers or any of those configurations, they will automatically set them up because they have their automation set up on the back end. But if you're manually setting up any sort of email account, DKIM and DMARC aren't automatically set up. Now, if you want to set up your DKIM record, think of these two things as like an extra layer of security. SECURITY, if I can spell security here. To set up your DKIM record in Google or Microsoft, these are going to be under your security settings. So if you go under security and see DKIM, you can generate a key. Then Google and Microsoft can match it against what you have. And again, this adds an additional layer of security or authentication, which makes it more likely that your emails land in the inbox. DMARC is the same thing. It's another layer of security. Now, to generate a DMARC record, you don't need to go to Google or Microsoft. You can literally Google DMARC setup, and you will find a record to set up there. So just to be clear, MX, SPF records, this is like your birth certificate. Anything that you set up will be mandatory to set this up. It'll be set up as part of your process. DKIM and DMARC, when you set up your own email accounts, they won't force you to set this up, but you should always set this up. This is like your driver's license and your passport. Now, tracking domain. So what a tracking domain is a secondary thing that you can set up in your DNS settings so that your sending behavior is associated with a custom server. So let me unpack this a little bit. What basically happens, let's say that you have an email account, right? And you send out an email and you send it to Joe over here, and you want to track opens. So whenever you track opens, this open rate pixel that is embedded in your email has to be tied back to a server. So I'm going to draw pretend this is a server, right? Whenever you're sending out this email to Joe and you're sending an open rate tracking pixel, it needs to send the pixel back to a server. Now, if you don't set up tracking domain, what this will do is this server is shared by everyone else on Smartlead. So you got other user here, you got other user here, they're sending out their own emails and they're all pointing back to the server. Now, the issue here is that if everyone's pointing back to the server, then email providers like Google and Microsoft will track back all these email guys and they'll say, hey, they're all pointing to the same server. So this looks a little bit weird and this can hurt your deliverability. You're basically sharing the same server across anyone who's using Smartlead. So what a custom tracking domain is like you're setting up your own private, private hosting for images, links, like unsubscribe links specifically, and pixels, like your click in, open, and whatever, right? So whenever you'll notice it too, whenever you set up an unsubscribe link, it'll have some sort of domain with some sort of, thing after it. And what this custom tracking domain is, it might be like unsub.smartlead.com. Now, if everyone's using unsub.smartlead.com, these servers can point back. Now, if you have unsub.yourwebsite, YW for your website.com, this is unique. And so that way it is not the same shared server. So all this being said, a custom tracking link is a separate link that you can host on your own domain that makes it so if you send links, images, or track your opens, that it doesn't point back to the same Smartlead server. All this being said, if you aren't tracking opens, links, or sending any sort of unsub link, anything like that, images, then you don't even need to worry about this. Now, it doesn't hurt to set this up. It takes a few minutes. Literally, you just go into your email settings and you press a couple buttons and you set up your DNS records, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But if you get this set up, not that big of a deal. If you don't, as long as you're not sending these things. Now, if you are sending images, links, unsub, pixel, whatever, any of this stuff, you should for sure get this set up so you're not sharing the same stuff with everyone else on Smartlead. Now, last term we're going to talk about here is a secondary domain. A secondary domain is basically your non-primary domain. So whenever you're sending out emails, your main website might be google.com. You don't want to send your cold emails from google.com. You might want to get google.com or try Google, right? We went through the mailbox setting already. These are the domains that you're sending from, and then your main domain you do not want to be sending from. So just to define those terms, these are DNS terms. So if you hear me reference any of these records or whatever, this is all stuff you can find in your domain settings in GoDaddy, Cloudflare, Bluehost, whatever you might be using. And so in case you hear me talk about those, that's what those mean. What I'm going to be doing is showing you how you can do the full domain email account setup completely from scratch if you want to go directly to a provider to get this done. And so first, just want to talk about what I'm going to outline in this video. It's going to be two things. So number one, it's setting up the actual domain. And then number two, it's setting up the mailbox. And then three, it's going to be connecting it to Smartlead. So just to be clear on terms, what a domain is the www. So as an example here, if you're setting up a domain and it's smartlead.com, that's the domain. Okay. Then after you get the domain, then you're going to want to set up the email account, which might be matt@getsmartlead.com. You get the point. And then the last part here is connecting it to Smartlead so Smartlead can actually use it. So there's lots of ways of doing this. So first, I'm going to talk about the domains. So whenever you're setting up the domains, there's lots of different providers. There's GoDaddy, there's Squarespace, there's Porkbun, there's Bluehost, there's Namecheap, there's all these different providers. Anyone that sells domains is fine for this process. Now for mailboxes, what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to do it with Google specifically just to keep it simple. But like I said in the previous videos, you can do Google, you can do Microsoft, you can do SMTP, and then we're going to talk about connecting it to Smartlead. So first off, let's start off with this domain purchasing process. I'm going to head on over to Porkbun. Now, like I said, you can use any provider for this. You can use Namecheap, you can use GoDaddy, you can use all these different, like anywhere where you can purchase a domain, this same process will apply. It'll just look slightly different. So I'm going to go over here to Porkbun. I'm going to do get test domain for slvideo.com. So I'm just going to get this nice domain here. Now, again, if you're doing this, you're going to want to buy probably a lot more than just one domain, but I'm just going to purchase one domain for the sake of this video. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to press the plus sign, and then I'm going to press checkout. So I have this domain here. This is my test domain for the Smartlead video. And then I'm going to press continue to billing. And now I'm going to go ahead and purchase this domain here. So I went ahead and purchased this domain. So as you can see here, this is the domain name that I just purchased. Now, again, this might look different if you're using GoDaddy, Namecheap, or any one of these other providers. Really what you're looking for is just to find the place where you can get the cheapest, domain that is from a reputable provider. And now that we have this set up, we're going to go on over and get the, now that we have the over here domain part checked off, we're going to want to set up the mailbox. Now, to go ahead and set up the mailbox, in this case, we're going to be using Google. So I'm going to open a new incognito window here, and I'm going to be going to Google Workspace to purchase the domain. So I'm going to go to workspace.google.com. I'm going to go over here to get started. And then I'm going to set up a new, what I guess you could call as an admin panel. So I'm going to call this SL test. You would name this your business or whatever you want to call it. Number of employees, I'm going to put 2 to 9 here. I'm going to press next. I'm going to put my info, Matt Lucero, and then I'm going to put my current email address here. Cool. And then I'm going to press create a new Google Workspace account. And then I'm going to set up using an existing domain. So I'm going to continue with this method. And then I'm going to set up the business's domain. So this is the domain that I have set up here. So I'm going to copy and paste that in. And I'm going to press next. And then I'm going to press next here. And I'm going to create a username. So I'm going to put Matt. So this is like the email account, Matt. And then password, I'm going to generate a random password here. Cool. So I'm going to paste the password that I have generated in here. And now I'm going to press agree and continue. Awesome. And as you can see here, it's trying to get me on this Business Plus plan. I'm going to press try free for 14 days, but I'm going to end up downgrading this so I'm not using this most expensive Google Workspace plan. Awesome. And then now it's going to have me check out here. And so I'm going to add my contact info and payment method. So now that we have the billing sorted, it's going to ask us to set up the domain DNS records. And this is what we discussed in the last video. So I'm going to press get started here. And then it's going to ask us what domain registrar we have. So it has a lot of preset filters here. So you can see pork bun is one of them. And so this makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to press continue. Now, if I didn't use pork bun, I think the process is mostly the same. So in any case, I'm going to go over here and open up the pork bun tab. And I'm going to press the settings tab here. Again, I'm using pork bun as an example. This will look the same pretty much regardless of whatever registrar that you're using. And then I'm going to go over here to the DNS records section here. And then I'm going to fill in the records based on what Google Workspace has. So I'm going to go over here to this tab, and you can see it prompts us to add a verification code. So name, set to default value, put this here, and then TTL set to the lowest value. So I'm going to go over here and just do this. So I'm going to go over here and put TXT. For the host, it says set to default value, which is blank. Or I can do like a star, whatever here. So I'm going to put value. I'm going to paste the value that I put in here. And then the TTL, again, I'm going to set this as default. So I'm going to press add. And now you can see that this was already went ahead and added. And now I'm going to go back to Google Workspace and I'm going to tick the box and press confirm. And so now it's just going to go ahead and verify to make sure that this record is correct. And you can see now the domain is verified and we're going to press activate Gmail. Now we're going to press continue here. And then we're going to proceed with activation. And then again, it's going to have us set up more records. So you can see this in MX record. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to press MX. And then I'm going to go same thing. So host set to default value, priority. I'm going to paste that as 1, and then points to over here for the value. I'm going to put the smtp.google.com code here, and I'm going to press add. Same thing. Going to go back to Gmail. Going to tick this box and press confirm. And then now it's going to proceed with getting our domain ready. Okay, awesome. Now everything is all loaded in. We verified that our records existed. I went ahead and deleted any of the default MX records inside of pork bun just to be safe. But now it is all set. And so we're going to press explore Google Workspace. And so now you can see that everything is all set up. So I'm just going to skip through all of these here. And then now we are in our Google Workspace. So the first place I'm going to go over the Gmail just to show you that this is all set up. So now this account is a Gmail account set up. I'm going to go over here to the admin settings real quick just to show you where you can configure stuff. So again, I'm going to try and skip through all the stuff that doesn't matter. Again, if this is a real case, I'm not going to downgrade just because I don't want to add complexity now. But if I wanted to, I could press manage and downgrade this email account. So then I'm not paying $25 per month just for something we're going to be sending from. So over here, now we're going to go through and set up all the other records that are relevant to make sure that we have our account set up. So I'm going to pull pork bun back up here in this tab. And the first thing that we're going to set up is the DMARC record. Now to set up a DMARC record, very simple. You can just Google DMARC setup or DMARC record generator. If I go over here and do this, you can find any website. You can create a DMARC record, or I'm going to go over here to Easy DMARC or whatever. And I'm just going to set a record up here. So I'm going to put the domain name here, which is get test domain for slovideo.com. I'm going to paste that in here. You can set the policy type. So the more strict you set this, technically it's supposed to help your deliverability. But if you have a fresh account, I don't think you're supposed to set this really strict to start. So I'm just going to have it as none. And then I'm not going to set any reporting stuff, or I guess I have to. So I'm going to put Matt at this. Okay. Same thing, put the same stuff here. I'm going to press create a DMARC record, and then it'll create something that, again, I can copy and paste. So I'm going to go over here back to pork bun, and I'm going to copy and paste everything that I've set up here. So you can see host, DMARC. I'm going to, this is a TXT record. So I'm going to go over here and put TXT underscore DMARC. TXT, and then this is the answer. I'm going to paste that in, and then I'm going to press add. Now, again, there's not, you can configure this DMARC record in really any way. I'm not necessarily endorsing this website, and I don't think you need all these records. Like, I think you can literally just have it like this. It just won't send you reports, but I'm going to set it up as such. That's our DMARC record taken care of. Now, moving onwards, I'm going to go on into the admin panel here, and then I'm going to go ahead and set up our, the DKIM record. So I'm going to go over into the search tab. I'm going to press DKIM. I'm going to put DKIM authentication, and then I'm going to generate a new record. I'm just going to press generate. And so same thing, we're just copying and pasting stuff. So host name, google.domain key. I'm going to go back to pork bun. We're going to paste this in here, and then I'm going to go back and copy this record value. I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to press paste in here. And then I'm going to press add. Now for this step, it's the same thing. There's an authentication step. I'm going to press start authentication, but you can see it was not verified. It takes anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes in my experience for this to actually work. So in any case, my face, I just realized, is in the way. Start authentication, I can press that button there. But this process will take you, call it 10 to 15 minutes regardless, just for this to register. So that's the DMARC taken care of. And then we're going to go on to the next step. So now let's get the SPF record all set up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to our admin panel here, and to grab the SPF record, again, it's super easy. It's something you can just Google. I'm just going to Google SPF record for Google. This is the same record. This isn't like the other records where you have to like uniquely generate it. Like for example, the DKIM record, that's something you have to uniquely generate. But for here, I'm just going to copy this VSPF include all. And then also to do this, you need to make it a TXT record. So same type of thing, go back to pork bun, TXT record. We're going to do this. You leave this blank, or you do an @ symbol or a star. And then we're going to press add here. And so now the SPF record is all taken care of. And then now when we go back to the admin panel here, let me go back. Now we're all set. So just to recap, we added our DMARC record, we added our DKIM record, which now that I'm going to move my face back here. Or actually I'm going to move my face back to the corner. I'm going to go and see if I can now validate it. So DKIM. Because it has been a little bit since I did this. Now, if I press start authentication, you do see that now there's no more error, and that's because I waited, 10 to 15 minutes or whatever. So now this process is going to get kicked off. So all in all, just to recap, we created the new email account, we connected to Google, we have all the records set up. Now we need to connect it to Smartlead. And so to do this inside of Smartlead, you press email accounts, you press connect mailbox, and then under Smartlead's infrastructure, we're going to press Google OAuth. And then it's going to ask us to add this little snippet of code in here. I'm going to show you real quick what it looks like when you don't do this, because a lot of you guys are going to not do this, and then you'll see this error, and you're going to be like, what went wrong? So if I click here and I press, let me do I understand real quick. You see this app is blocked error. If you get this error, that's because you did not add this code. So I'm going to go all the way back to Smartlead real quick. And then I'm going to add the code in here. So I'm going to press connect mailbox. I'm going to press Google OAuth. And then I am going to copy this ID here. All right, so we're going to click into this button here that says admin panel with our Google stuff logged in. We're going to go over here. And so this is where we can basically grant access to Smartlead so that Google can actually log in and access our account. So we're going to press copy client ID. We're going to go over here and press configure new app. We're going to paste this handy dandy code here and press search. And then we're going to press view, I'm going to tick this box. I almost pressed view website. And then we're going to press all in SL test. This is just in your organization. We're going to press continue. And then we're going to mark this as trusted. So this will allow us to have full kind of access to everything that we have set up here. We're going to press continue, and then we are going to finish. And now what we have successfully done here is now granted access so Smartlead can connect to our Google account. So now when I go back here and I try this one more time, unlike the last attempt here, when I click in and I press continue, it won't give us that error, and I can press allow. And just like that, we have an account now connected to Smartlead. So you can see the email account is successfully connected. And so now if I move my face back over here, we can see all those settings. So that wraps up everything. Again, I just showed you everything end to end of how to set up an account. Now, the way that you do this for Microsoft, very similar. It's just instead of going to workspace.google.com, Microsoft has their own landing page. But I just want to show you start to finish what it's like to go through one of those providers and set everything up, and then how you can connect it. Now, again, The exact same process is true for Microsoft accounts. It's just in slightly different places, but hopefully that was useful. And on to the next module we go. We're going to be talking about smart servers, more specifically what they are, how you can purchase them, and how you can set them up. So at a super high level, what a smart server is basically a dedicated email server with a dedicated IP that is unique and custom to you instead of being shared by other people. And you can see here, Smartlead has some benefits or stats that they found from their users that they are inputting here. The main benefit, my understanding, is that, again, you have kind of unique isolated IP. And also my understanding is this makes a bigger difference at scale. So that way, whenever you're sending out a bunch of emails, that it's isolated to you at scale instead of you sending a bunch of emails and it being shared by a bunch of other people. Point being is that's what a smart server is at a super high level. Now you can connect it to specific campaigns. You can connect it to specific clients if you're an agency. So I'm going to show you how you can set that up. So if you go over here into the Smart Servers tab, you press Add Smart Server here in the top right, and you can go over here and pick the country that you want it in. I'm going to press US. And I'm going to press one server. So you can see here, it's $39. I'm going to, and you can see the purchase guidelines here. We recommend 80 to 100,000 emails per server. Multiple campaigns can run through multiple servers. More details, all that fun stuff. You can click to the help center if you want to read it. And if you want to purchase it, it's as simple as pressing complete purchase and making the payment. And they'll go ahead and charge the card on file. And just like that, they're going to start processing the order here. We're going to wait a second and it should go through. Now, after this is all handled and taken care of, after the smart server is set up, I think it goes through like a pending type of process here. After that's all squared away, then you'll be able to connect it to a campaign. Cool. And so after you press purchase, you'll see I bought 2 smart servers here for the sake of the example, also to show you that you can rotate them in and out. But whenever you purchase these smart servers, you can see it'll get logged in here, and then it takes a little bit of time to provision. I don't know the exact time it takes to provision. All I know is you can see here status says getting ready. So that doesn't mean that it's ready to use. It just starts the provisioning process. Now, once you have the smart server set up, what you can do here is go over to the email campaigns tab and you can press these 3 dots and there should be an option here, or maybe I got this mistaken. Let's click into the campaign. And then yes, so you can see the smart servers tab here where you can assign specific smart servers. So I got these 2 here. Let's say I want to include these. I can press update and I can press save. And now these 2 smart servers are assigned to this system. Additionally, if you have clients in here, which I'm going to create a client or I can have a client created, you can also set a smart server up. I'm actually going to do the client access in a different video, and so you can watch me do that. Point being is you can also assign specific smart servers to specific clients. So just note that there's multiple ways you can use smart servers. You can either assign specific campaigns. You can also have a rotate between campaigns, and then you can also assign it to clients. So if I had a client here, there's a similar process. You can find it pretty easily. You just click on it and there should be an option there to assign it as a smart server dedicated to that specific client. So that's smart servers. That's how it all works. And then whenever you launch campaigns, then you will be able to see that a smart server is active by having this little icon here showing that you have a smart server. So that's a overview of smart servers. All right, so we're going to talk about private OAuth. So what does that mean and why is it useful? So if you watch the prior module where I talked about configuring or like uploading and connecting this mailbox here, whenever I press connect mailbox, I clicked Google OAuth, I had to paste in this fancy code here and I connected the account and how to configure some settings. Now, one school of thought, again, a lot of this is still kind of hypothetical, but one concern that people might have is that, Google can see that when we are pasting this information into their admin panel, they can see that we are connecting to Smartlead, which some people might speculate might, make it seem like you are using this public tool and you want some privacy so that, Google can't spy on you. So what you can alternatively do is have your own custom OAuth. So the only difference here, you connect it the exact same way as shown before, but if you reach out to Smartlead support, they can set you up with your own custom OAuth that you can paste in and it'll look unique to you. Now to do this, you have to reach out to support. So if I click into my account, I click settings and I go on over to OAuth configuration. I want to create my own OAuth setup. I have to contact support. You can see here, it'll ask to book a time. So you will have to walk it through with their team. So in short, if you want to have extra additional layers of privacy, whether you're using Google, whether you're using Microsoft, if you want to do this, you need to go into your Connect mailbox, And you can set up your own custom infrastructure contingent on you reaching out to Smartlead support. And apparently, or for in their own words, it can help with deliverability and customization, again, according to their team. So if you want to do this, you can contact support. You can get your own custom OAuth. The OAuth is just the connection mechanism. Again, I'm not super technical, but if you want a custom one for your own email account, you can go there, reach out to support, and they can get you set up. All right, so in this smart delivery, more specifically, what is it and why should you be using it? So if you are inside Smartlead and you click over here into the bottom left-hand corner, you will see Smart Delivery. Now, what Smart Delivery is an email testing tool. The whole purpose of Smart Delivery is that, the thought process is you have your mail, right, and you're going to send to all your recipients, and let's say some of them land in spam and some of them land in the inbox, which, ideally we want as much of this as possible and as little of this as possible. The goal of a smart delivery test is instead of just going straight out to your list, you can send it over to Smartlead. And then Smartlead can tell you if you're landing in spam or if you're not landing in spam. And the reason why this is useful is that you can kind of get an idea of what your results will look like before you launch your campaign. So if you want to use smart delivery, you go over here into this tab. You can create an automatic task, or an automatic test, which is like a recurring test, or a manual test, which is like a one-off test. Now, to do this, all you have to do is press Start Spam Test in the top here. Alternatively, you can also go to the email campaign section and do it whenever you are finishing up a campaign. So if you click in here, you press Edit Campaign, and before you launch, you can press here, which my face is blocking, Start Spam Run Spam Test. Forgive me. Run Spam Test. You can click this here and it will take you to the same page. So that's what a smart delivery test is. Now, in the next video, I'm going to talk about how you can actually set one of these up. All right, so let's talk about how to actually set up a smart delivery test. So the way that you do this is you go over down to Smart Delivery here in the left-hand side, and you press Start Spam Test. Now you can either do an automatic test or an automatic test or a manual test. I'm going to do both of them in this video. So to do a manual test, you press Manual Test. You can name this, so I'll call this blah 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 blah. You can move this to a folder. You can give a description, whatever is useful to you. You can select a spam filter. So Spam Assassin, I think, is like an open source spam filter. Now, I want to be clear. Google and Microsoft and all these trillion-dollar companies have their own spam filters. This is just an open source one that will give you directional information. Now, Link Checker, what this will do is ensure the validity of your URL and your copy. You can select sending throttling. So you can either just rip a bunch of emails at once, or you can send it with a time gap, which is what I recommend. You can press Save and Next. And then you can test using a Smartlead connected mailbox. So we have one connected already, or you can test with a mailbox not associated with Smartlead. Chances are, if you're using Smartlead for everything else, you're probably going to use a Smartlead connected mailbox. Now, if you, it's going to have you do here is pick a campaign to test. So it's not just going to send random emails. It's going to send emails using the exact copy that you're using in your campaigns. And the thought process here is that the copy makes an impact. So if you send spammy emails or emails that have links and all kinds of stuff, that will more likely land you in spam, and it'll give you some more real world statistics. So I can press this campaign here. I can pick a sequence. I can look at the copy that I have here, and I can pick specific mailboxes to use. Now, I only have one mailbox in this test account. You should select more than one mailbox. Modify providers. You can pick which providers receive mail. Google and Microsoft are the big ones. If you just want to test one for whatever reason, you could just pick one. And then the other things here, warm up your campaign copy. So what this will do is Smartlead will actually reply to the spam test, basically signaling positive intent to the copy that you're sending out, which in theory should help deliverability. So I'm going to tick that box and I'm going to press Save and Run Test. That's how you set up a manual test. Now, if you want to set up an automatic test that runs on a recurring basis, same thing, Start Spam Test, automatic test, exact same process that we just went through. Now, the only difference here is that after you configure everything that I just went through, blah, 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 I'm just going to click through a bunch of stuff that I already did. The only real difference here is that it'll do it on a recurring cadence. So instead of doing it once, I can select a frequency. So I can say, do it on this date at this time every day, and then stop doing this in a week from now, right? And I can press Save Frequency, and now it'll just do this test on a recurring frequency. The main benefit here is that if performance were to say degrade over time, I can see that with real world data. So this is a really useful feature. And if I press save and run test, again, same thing can run in parallel. And so that's how you set up smart delivery tests. Now we're going to talk about analyzing results. We're going to analyze smart delivery tests and show you what you can see inside of these tests after you run them and talk about how you can troubleshoot them. So again, this is a demo account. I only have one test run here, but I'm going to click into the one that is completed or ran at least a little bit. So after I click into this test, it might take a second to load here. Now I can see all the different results. So it's going to take a second to load, but as it's loading in, you can see overall result. The spam test for the selected campaign copy is 100%, meaning we sent 2 emails, one to Google, one to Microsoft, or maybe a couple to each one of them. We can see the breakdown here, and they all landed in the inbox. And I would expect as much because the copy I used was like 3 words. There was no like spam words. It wasn't super long. And on top of that, this was a completely fresh account that I set up. So we can see the results here. However, if you landed in spam, it will drop down your percentage. So again, the way that I'm demoing this is just with one email account. You can have a bunch of email accounts. So you can see actually the breakdown by email accounts. You can also see the email copy that you used. You can see we also even had the unsubscribe link here, but we sent out these emails, they all land in the inbox. This tab section here means that it landed in the promotional tab, and the spam section here means they landed in the spam or the junk folder. Now, it gives you a few more detailed analytics. So more specifically, what your overall spam filter score is. So if I click into here, it'll show me what spam assassin rated the score is. The 0.5 score indicates the message is unlikely to be filtered out as spam. Their scoring mechanism, I believe, is public. I think you can literally just Google spam assassin filtering, and it just will show you how these emails pass through these open source spam tools. IP analytics. So this here will show me the different IP analytics they have. So the IP associated with the email account. So I can click into the ESP IP reputation here. You can see there's no data, so there's nothing to be found here. And then I'm going to scroll back down and click into the RDNS report where I can see the full report that they have here. So again, I'm just going button by button here. And depending on how many email accounts you have in the data, there will be more information. So this is showing the RDNS data, which honestly, if you ask me exactly what RDNS means, I couldn't tell you. I think technically it stands for reverse DNS. I think it's just looking at the data sent from my email account from the point of view of the recipient. Point being is that this is an additional test where you can source out data. You can see the RDNS, whatever IP address or host here. You can see the status. I think these are the recipient email accounts that we sent to from the email account that we had here. The other things we can see is if our domain is on any blacklist and our email authentication report. So in the course here, I showed you how you set up an email account. Now, if you messed up your DKIM, if you messed up your SPF, it'll tell you that here, but those are both coming back clean and the domain blacklists are coming back clean. And then if we click into the email accounts we sent to here, we can also see the breakdown by recipient provider. So we can see how we landed in G Suite or Office. So what might happen, or I've seen very common, is that you might be landing in the inbox on G Suite and in spam on Office or vice versa. And maybe you have a bunch of different accounts, so you can see the breakdown by accounts. So this is a very, very, very powerful tool where you can see analytics across tons of different accounts on a recurring basis by recipient, by provider. You can filter all kinds of different stuff by the placement type. You can filter by the sender accounts you're using. You can see the email copy. You can see all kinds of detailed analytics, all with the purpose of trying to troubleshoot if you're landing in spam and making sure that your email accounts are healthy. Now, the question here is, what do you do if your emails start landing in spam? So when you're running these tests, I have completely, fresh accounts here. You might not see perfectly clean tests because you might be using them in campaigns. You might have messed something up. And so the purpose of all these different tools is to help diagnose what's going wrong. Now, you can click into each one of these little help boxes and see exactly what each one of these things mean. I will tell you, as someone who has sent millions of cold emails, there's lots of different ways you can handle this. There's lots of different ways you can troubleshoot it. My North Star here is that usually like the fixes, I'm going to talk about what you can actually do to fix it. Now, in most cases, 90% of cases, usually it means you have to adjust your copy, meaning the emails that you're sending. You know, if you're sending a bunch of spammy stuff in your emails, that's going to cause a problem. Or you're going to have to change your setup, meaning how you set up your email accounts, all the different configurations there. Now, on the copy side, the ways that you usually fix this is by removing links, removing images, making your emails plain text, clicking those optimized email delivery buttons in the campaign creation section. And on the infrastructure side, a lot of times that means you need to make sure it's set up right. And if it was set up right and you're still having issues, then you might just need to make new email accounts. So the analogy I'll give is the email copy is like the gas. So if you're putting the wrong gas in your car, switch out the gas, car might still work. Ta-da, that's fixed. And then on the infrastructure side, that's the car. Sometimes the car was not set up right. The engine was in the trunk instead of the front, or, you know, the seat was flipped around or whatever it might be. Or in some cases, you set up the car perfectly fine, but you crashed it. And when you crash it, you got to set up new email accounts. So in short, that is the spam test feature here. It is useful for you to be able to diagnose issues, see if you're landing in spam and seeing if you're not. And the last thing I'll give you about this is that this is a very powerful tool, but also this is used in combination with a lot of other different things inside of Smartlead to troubleshoot things. So to give a real world example, if you're running this test and the test says that things are not working as they should, but you look at your campaigns are performing phenomenally, that might not even mean that you need to take action. The reason why I say all this is because Smartlead is simulating a lot of results. Now, despite this being a very powerful tool, real world results will always be the best indicator, because when you go out to the real world and if it works, that's what matters more than this. Like, this test can say that everything's working perfectly, but if it's breaking in the real world, that's an issue you want to solve. And that could also be because of lists and whatever. This tool is meant to screen for you having issues on your infrastructure side, meaning if they're landing in inbox or not, and to help you diagnose it, and it should be used as such. So that's an overview of Smart Delivery, how to set up tasks, how to use it, how to interpret the reports, and assuming that things are broken, usually it means that there's something wrong with your copy or your infrastructure. If it's your copy, remove links, make it plain text, use less spammy words, try different variations to see if you can make it work in this ecosystem. And then assuming that you did everything perfectly and your settings are set up perfectly, then you might just need to buy new email accounts, and you can refresh those through the email account section, meaning you crash the car. If the car doesn't work, you gotta get a new car, even though you did everything right. So that's a super high level overview, and on to the next module. All right, setting up campaigns. Now, so far we've talked about setting up email accounts. We've talked about scraping lists. And now we're going to put it together and actually create a campaign. So we're just going to start totally from scratch. I know in the beginning we built a campaign using Smart Prospect. So I'm going to show you again how to build a campaign using those leads, and we'll just set one totally up from scratch. So I'm first going to start off by pressing create campaign here in the top right. Now, again, in the previous modules, we talked about how to add leads from Smart Prospect. So if we want to do this, I could go back to our Smart Prospect list. I could click on the list that we already have set up here. I can select all of these leads and I can push them to a campaign and just create a campaign in the process. So I'll call it test V2. Next, we can go through these settings again and we can create an ad to the campaign. I'm going to use the native campaign builder just to show all the kind of bells and whistles. So I'm going to go over here in the top right. I'm going to press create campaign. And then the options here again are to add from Smart Prospect or import your own existing list. So before we jump into any of this, first I'm going to give this campaign a name. So I'm going to call this test number 2 campaign for Smart Lead or SL. And then I'm going to import some existing leads. So I'm just going to pull a lead list in from a bunch of random people that I have here. So I'm going to go over and click on a random set of leads. And then again, I'm going to be prompted with these 4 import settings. Now, these settings can be very useful depending on the use case. I'm going to quickly highlight what each one of these settings mean. So the first setting here, import leads even if they're in the global block list. So what this will do is if you use Smartlead's block list feature, which I'll actually go back real quick here and show you. If you click over back here into the top right, press settings here, and then we go on over to global block list, we can upload a set of emails that we never want to contact. So what this section here will do was override that. So let's say hypothetically, we want to say screw our block list, we can turn this on and it will disable that. Otherwise, this default state setting, what we'll do is if we upload a block list here, it'll know not to, remove them, which is what you're probably going to want to do in 90% of cases. Same thing here. If they're in the unsubscribe list, same idea. It's just there's a slight delineation between a block list and an unsubscribe list. An unsubscribe list is people that have said that they want to unsubscribe from prior emails you sent inside of Smartlead. So same idea here. This third setting, import leads even if they bounce across our entire user base. So what Smartlead does is they keep a running log of any email that has ever bounced across all the users across their platform. Now, in my personal experience, coming from someone who uses Smartlead a lot, there might be users on the platform who maybe incorrectly set up their email settings and thus caused valid leads to bounce. And then that gets added to the user base. So in most cases, again, I would actually keep this on, which is the default setting for a reason, which is basically, exclude that, like don't have any say of what other users have done in the past, which I think is good. And then this last setting, me personally, again, as someone who runs an agency and has sent, more than 10 million emails, this setting I found to be the most useful. What this will do is if you have this enabled, it'll block people that exist in prior campaigns. So that way, if I have two lead lists and they're overlapping to some degree, I can tick this box and it'll make sure not to upload leads that are in any, upload any leads that are in any prior campaign. So for this, example here, I'm just going to press save and just leave it as default. And so this is this setting here. The next thing is the client ID. We're going to get to this in the later section. I first want to create a campaign before talking about how to set up a client ID. But what this is useful for is if you have sub accounts in your Smartlead account. So let's say you run an agency like I do, you can make client IDs in here. So this almost creates a unique environment for them. So if you want to exclude leads that exist specifically for one client, you can do that here. If you want to assign a campaign to a specific client, you can do that here. Very useful feature. We're going to get to this later. And then the next section here is basically mapping the field. So I just uploaded a random lead list here. Now what Smartlead is going to ask you to do is map the names of the columns of the sheet that you uploaded to the names of the variables inside of Smartlead. So in layman's terms, whenever you go inside of Smartlead's script editor, which we're going to be here in a second, whenever you're in there and you say, I want to pull in the first name, you need to tell Smartlead what column is called first name. So in this sheet, it's very straightforward. We just have a first name column. And so first name is the name here. But just to show a different example, let's say we want to reference their location. You can see there's country field, state field, and city field. You need to tell Smartlead which one you want to reference as the location field. Or same thing, some of these aren't as intuitive. Let's say like the LinkedIn, title or whatever. You can see LinkedIn here. We can put LinkedIn profile as the mapping there. So once you're all set and done, then you can go over here and press save and next, and it will proceed to upload all the leads that we just set out here. All right, and so now you can see all the leads are uploaded. Now Smartlead then prompts you that if you don't have your leads validated, let's say you pulled it in from like a third-party source, you can press the button launch verification and proceed. And what this will do is Smartlead will then real-time validate the emails that you pull in here. That way, whenever you put them in campaigns, they're ready to go. Otherwise, if you already did the dirty work of doing all this work beforehand, which is what I do in most cases, then you just can press skip and proceed. Now, in this campaign section here, this is where you can set up your campaign. So this top section here is your subject line. So if I put ABC, that's going to be the subject line. If I put ABC as the body, that's going to be the body line. If I want to put in a variable like a first name, I can press insert variables here and put first name. And again, it's going to reference what we had here before. Now, if we want to make a split test, so we want to try DEF compared to ABC, we can type that here, same thing. So now these campaigns will run 50% to each one of them, and it will compare the results against the two. I'm going to just save this here temporarily. Now, if we want to disable variants, we can tick those boxes or delete them. We can just press the trash icon next to each one of the variants. If I want to add a follow-up email, which most of you will want to do, you can press add step here. Now it'll give you the option to to automatically send an email or do a manual step. If you set as a manual step, it's basically not gonna automatically send a follow-up email. It's going to just tell you to take a manual step. So if you want to for example, tell one of your sales reps to follow up with them on LinkedIn, then you can do this manual step feature here. But in this case, we'll just do email, and then we can set a delay time. So basically they're going to receive the email A or B. And then between, call it 2 days, then they're going to receive this follow-up email. Now, if you want this email chain to be threaded, then you leave this subject line blank. So now if I type, ABC again, they're going to receive one of these 2 emails at a 50% frequency. Then they're going to, in 2 days, receive another email that says ABC in the same thread. If you want to show up as a separate standalone email, then you can put something here in the subject line. Now, moving forward, and again, you can do this as many times as you want. You can add variants here. If you want to delete steps, you can press the trash can. So we're going to move on to the next section here. So now, under this section, we're going to set up the sender accounts. So this is basically where you can assign which email accounts go to which campaigns. So I only have one email account set up here. So I'm going to tick this box and I'm going to press save email accounts. And this email account is added to the campaign. Now, if you have 10 email accounts, you can add all 10. Now, one really common question that people have is how should I segregate out the email account? So let's say I have 5 campaigns. Do I put, one email account on each campaign, or how do they set that up? The really cool thing about Smartlead is they have a really intelligent backend system that can time things appropriately. So if you have 5 different campaigns, you can just put all the email accounts in all the different campaigns, and Smartlead's system will know to automatically just, spread out the email volume contingent on the rest of the settings being, set up appropriately so that you can do that. So it's really nifty. Basically, in short, I only have one account for the sake of this demo, but you can tick this box and press select all, or select a bulk amount of email accounts, press save, do that across as many accounts as you'd like. And that way you will have, email accounts that will be configured to evenly get split across all the accounts. Additionally, Smartlead's system will rotate between those accounts. So you have 10 different accounts. It'll send from one account, then the next account, then the next account, and then it'll do it over and over again. So their system's really intelligent. When in doubt, just let it do its thing, and it'll take care of you. Now, under the schedule section here, this is where you can configure your settings. So under here, time zone, this is the time zone that it's going to reference whenever you sign campaigns. So I'm going to just do New York for the sake of this example. So this is Eastern time. It'll prompt you to ask which days you want your email campaigns to go out. So if you only want, Monday through Friday, you can do that. If you want to send on weekends, you can tick these boxes, etc., etc. Here is the time period between sequences. So what this section is basically indicating is the period of time where you will be sending emails. So if it's midnight, it won't send emails because you say here that I want to start at 9 a.m. and end at 5 p.m. Now you can change this setting here. This is in military time for all you Americans out there. For everyone else in the world that uses, the military time, this looks pretty intuitive. So if I want, for example, for it to start at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, I can click that. I can click any time on the clock here. So let's say I want the campaigns to start at 8:04. I can select the box as such. And then under this section where it says 2, this is when the campaigns will stop sending. So let's say I want to stop sending at 3 p.m., 3:06, then it will do that accordingly. This section here, this trigger section, an email will be sent every 20 minutes. So what this will do is it's basically the time gap between when emails will get sent out. Now, Smartlead does the math for you. I don't know if you can see it's in small text. It basically divides the hours of your availability divided by the amount of minutes. And that'll tell you that you will send 21 emails per day if you are following this time gap. The important thing to consider is the settings you set up on the email accounts tab will be the standalone, or like the thing that matters more. So if you have, let's use our example here, this email account, and it's configured to send up to 15 cold emails per day, us allowing it to send up to 21 times, it won't matter. It'll send the 15 emails. So again, this email account section here will override it, or it'll do the more conservative number. Now, as an example here, let's say I said I only want to send between 8 a.m. and I'll say 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and I want to send every 20 minutes. Well, that'll only give us 6 potential times that we can send our emails out. In this case, it'll only send emails. So again, it'll pick the more conservative case here. So you just want to make sure that these numbers are lined up. Otherwise, or this number is bigger than the other one. Otherwise, you won't send as much as you probably think you will. Campaign start date, pretty self-explanatory. Let's say I want to start it sometime in the future. I can select this box. And then max number of new leads reached per day. Again, this is max number of new leads reached per day. So this is how many new leads get kind of dripped in. I personally just set this to a really high number because I don't want to be capped by how many new leads. Again, it'll respect all the other settings here. But let's say you want to send 1,000 emails a day. You'll want to make sure you send this to 1,000. Now, if you set it to 100, that doesn't mean it'll send 100 emails a day. It could send more. It just means it'll add 100 new leads per day. So hopefully that makes sense. If you're confused by any of this, just set it to a really high number. So that way, as long as you have your other settings set up appropriate here, it'll send to what your mailbox limits are set here. Now, under campaign settings, this is where you can configure all the different variants of campaign settings. So this is where you can configure the name. If you want to stop sending messages when people click on a link or open an email, you can trigger that. The default setting is reply when someone replies to a message, which is pretty straightforward. And then email variant distribution mode. We're going to talk about spin tags here in a different module, but if you want to randomize your spin tags or have it in a pattern, you can select that here. Optimize email delivery. I'd recommend this for 90% of people watching this video. What this will do is it'll strip out all the links, all the stuff that is not plain text in your email so that you get better email deliverability. When you send links or images or any weird stuff in your email, it makes it more likely that your emails land in spam. So you taking this on will help you in that case. Ticking the force plain text as content type button will force your emails to be plain text. Now, you might be confused saying, well, shouldn't this make your emails plain text? The answer is yes, but some email providers then override your settings, and so this forces it. However, it gives a little pop-up here that this may ruin your formatting. The reason why email senders then override your settings is because sometimes your emails will look funky if you don't do it, like the line breaks will be all chopped up. So again, up to your discretion. You can tick these boxes if you don't want track opens or link clicks. If you tick this box, it'll automatically strip out that stuff, so that won't happen. We're going to talk about smart servers, but if you have a smart server, this is where you can assign a smart server to a dedicated campaign or up to 4. So you can select 4 different smart servers. I'm recording this after the smart server module, so I will talk about that in the smart server module, which may be before this video, depending on when you're watching it or the order. Prioritize sending pattern. So what this scenario is basically, let's say in our prior example back here, we said in 2 days, send them their email to. But the question begs, let's say I put 1 million people in this campaign and 2 days rolls around. Smartlead then has the question of, should I email these people or should I email more new people? And so what this setting that I just had up here determines the ratio of new people being added into the campaign or you sending follow-up emails. When in doubt, you can set it to 50-50, or if you just want to prioritize follow-ups, you can do that. Or conversely, if you want to prioritize just new leads, you can do that. Company level auto pause. What this will do is if you email decision maker A from one company and decision maker B from that same company, and the first guy responds, it'll pause the second guy. So basically, if someone from the same company responds, it'll pause all the other people. This next setting here will route Gmail inboxes to Gmail recipients and Outlook inboxes to Outlook recipients. So if you want to match the providers that you're sending from and the receivers have, if you tick this box, it'll do that. Now, this only works if you have Gmail and Outlook accounts in the campaign. Otherwise, it doesn't have any custom routing to do. This is, in theory, supposed to help deliverability. I think that the efficacy of this changes from time to time. Smartlead releases reports periodically on what recipients are more advantageous to send from and to. So check that, or whatever updated stuff is out there. In either case, I found this to make a marginal difference from someone who's run an agency. So don't stress too much about this. This can lead to potentially a marginal benefit. Isolated provider sending, what this will do is it will make it so if you have a lead list, and you can see in this campaign, there's 59% Outlook recipients, 12% Gmail recipients, and 30% others, that I can select to only reach out to one set of these people. Intelligent AI lead categorization. What this will do is we can have it set so whenever we receive replies and review in the master inbox, that gets tagged automatically. So we're going to talk about the master inbox here in a different module, but in the master inbox section, you can tag leads as interested, not interested, etc. If you have this enabled, you can give Smartlead kind of free reign to automatically do a lot of this tagging work for you, which is really helpful. These additional boxes, again, are pretty self-explanatory. Ignore auto-categorize out of office from the reply rate. So this is if Smartlead auto-categorizes a lead as out of office, it'll remove it from the statistics. This section here, automatically restart AI categorize out of office when lead returns, will do exactly what it says. So if Smartlead categorizes someone as out of office and they say they're going to be back in office in 5 days from now, it'll send them a new email 5 days from now instead of totally removing them from a campaign. High bounce rate auto protection. What this will do is it'll stop your campaigns if your bounce rate gets too high. So the best analogy I can give here is imagine you have a car and your tire runs flat. Instead of you driving on a flat tire, it'll stop your car so you don't damage the whole car because you got a flat tire. So it's the same idea here. If I put 5 in here, if my bounce rate exceeds 5%, it'll pause the campaign. The reason being is that if your bounce rate gets really high, it can damage your email accounts and make it so that their deliverability gets harmed in the process. So this is a really unique or a really nice feature here. Domain level rate limiting. What this will do is if you use a specific type of setup where you're only sending a few emails per day from an account, if you don't know what this is, like, don't even worry about the setting. But if you're using like, there's some Microsoft providers where you have 50 inboxes per domain and 2 mails per day per account or 5 or whatever, it helps configure it appropriately. So again, if you're using an Outlook, or you can read it here. If you're using a mailbox vendor on Outlook or Google that recommends low volume sending, use this option. In most cases, you're probably not going to need this. And then adding an unsubscribe message. Because I have this box checked, it won't let me. But now that I check this box, I can add an unsubscribe message to the bottom of all my emails. So I can put click here to unsubscribe. And it will, unsubscribe me if that's the case. This is a header tag where you can enable one-click unsubscribe in your emails. Now, if we save these settings here, now they're all going to be applied. And then we're going to press save and next. And in this final stage, we can review all of the information that we have. So you can see here, the first name is getting pulled in. So Dan, it says Dan here. This one doesn't say Matthew because in this last section, we didn't have the first name in any of these. And so if we want to preview what they look like before they go live, you can do that. Now, if you're ready to push the campaigns live, you can press start campaign here and the campaigns will launch. If you want to view what the leads will look like in mobile and or desktop, you can do that here. And then finally, if you want to check for any spam words in your email or, the readability, you can click this ABC button here in the top right and check for any spam words and the readability. And then if you're ready to launch a campaign, you can press start campaign. So that is a quick overview of how to set up a campaign inside of Smartlead. We're going to talk about subsequences, more specifically, what is a subsequence, why is it useful, and how you can set them up for your campaign. So first, let's talk about what a subsequence even is. And so I'm going to pull up the whiteboard here to kind of show what a subsequence is. Basically, what a subsequence is a sub campaign that you can add leads to based on conditional rules. So I'll give a hypothetical. Let's still imagine you have campaign 1, which I'm going to note with C1. And then after or inside this campaign, you have your email 1, which is followed up by an email 2, which is followed up by an email 3. So you have a normal, 3-step email sequence. But let's say someone responds to email 2 saying that they are interested. Now, the problem here is that while you can reply directly to this lead and you might send them, follow up, or I'm just going to put M1 for manual reply, or I'll put MR for manual reply, not Mr. manual reply. The problem here is that now they're not going to get continual follow-ups. As you can see in our main campaign here, if someone did not respond to email 1, they get email 2. And if they don't respond to email 2, they get email 3. So the same thing is true here. We want to set up a similar type of sub kind of campaign cadence so that after you respond to someone, or maybe this response isn't manual, then again, they get a follow-up 1, follow-up 2, etc. So that's effectively what a subsequence accomplishes. It is a sub campaign that you can add people to. So I'm going to show you how you can set this up. So inside of your campaigns tab here, I'm just pulling up this test campaign that I created. So under here, I'm going to click into this campaign. I'm going to click out of this little builder view here, and I'm going to click into subsequence. So this is where I can create my subsequences. I'm going to press add subsequence. Now what this is going to do is it's going to bring me into an editor. I'll call this example subsequence. Now you can add people to a subsequence based on if they are a specific lead category. So this is the most common use case I personally use. As an example, if I tag someone as meeting request, then I can send them a certain set of follow-ups that they get after you tag them as meeting request. You can do it immediately, or you can do it after a delay. So like, I'll give an example of how I personally use subsequences. So as an example, if someone is marked as interested, I'm going to wait for 3 days, and then I'm going to send a follow-up. So what I personally like to do is what I kind of demonstrated in that diagram, is that I like to send a manual response followed up with a series of automated responses if they don't respond. So if a lead is marked as interested, then we're going to go save and next. And then I'll show an example here. Again, we're going to leave the subject line empty, so it's threaded. So I'll say something like, hi, first name, are you still interested? Let me know either way. So this is just like a super simple subsequence where, let's say someone is interested, I manually type up a response, then I push them to the subsequence here, and then we say, hey, are you interested? And then same thing, you can add variants, you can add steps. So again, we'll do another one where it's like in 2 days from now, I just wanted to shoot one, I just wanted to shoot one last email. Let me know either way. Okay. So if they're interested, we send them an email. It'll wait 3 days. Then it'll send them the first sequence. Then it'll send them the second one. Now, just like the other campaign settings, if we press save and next here and we go over to the setup tab, we can add a schedule. The settings are the exact same here that are kind of covered in the previous module, where you can add a date and time and all the other stuff. The only setting that's different here is that you can have it override your inbox sending limits. That way, if you have maybe those 5 interested leads, but you hit your email cap for the day, you can have it kind of go over that. That way, you can make sure that all the interested people are contacted. Then we're going to press save and next here, and just like that, our subsequence is all set up. So now if anyone is tagged as interested, then they will receive this series of emails, and that way you can continue to follow up with all the leads in your campaigns. So that's a super high level. That's what subsequence is, and that's how you use them inside of Smartlead. All right, so we're going to be talking about 3 things. We're going to be talking about variables, we're going to be talking about liquid spin tags, and we're going to be talking about regular spin tags. So if you don't know what any of those 3 things mean, don't worry, I'm here to teach you. So first, let's talk about all the 3 terms and what they mean, and I'll show you some real examples here. So first, let's talk about, I'm going to put them all 3. So variables, spin tags, and liquid spin tags, LIQUID spin tags, okay? So first, variables. This is pretty straightforward. So a variable is just a placeholder that can be dynamically input based off of what is in your lead list. So as an example, if you have first name here, this is a variable. So if you want to insert variables, you press this handy dandy insert variables, and it'll insert you some variables. So as an example, first name, what it'll do is it'll reference the import lead section here, and it'll reference whatever you map as a first name in here. Now you can upload custom variables. So let me just show an example of what this looks like. So if I go over back into the lead section I have here, let me pull up a lead list while this is all getting pulled up. But if I go over here into the import lead section and I import a new set of contacts, let's drag and drop this guy here. I'm going to skip over here. These are all kinds of different fields that can be mapped as variables. So let's say I want this unique variable, company headcount. If I want this to be a custom variable, I just map this as custom field. And just like that, I can use company headcount now is a new variable. Now, these are all duplicate leads, so I don't think this will get pulled in, but pretend they weren't. Now I can go over here and do, company headcount. Looks like it actually was pulled in. And now if I save this, let's see if it gets pulled in. There you go. It gets pulled in as a kind of unique variable. So if you want to import any kind of like custom unique stuff that gets rotated in and out, you can do it like that. Perfect use case for this is like personalized lines, any custom stuff like that. You can do that there. And if you want to insert variables, you just click this button and it'll pop all up. The cool thing is Smartlead also has default variables. You can do like time of day, day of week. They have it all in their help document. So if you just Google like Smartlead help documents, you can find all the different types of stuff. So if you want to say like good morning, good afternoon, it can dynamically send that based on time of day. So Smartlead has a lot of cool variables, and you can also upload your own. So that's variables. The next thing we're going to talk about here is spin tags. So let me pull up my handy dandy whiteboard. So variables, this is like, I can't do the things right, but pretend first name. This is a variable, okay? Spin tags, what spin tags is micro variations in your email that is randomized to help improve your deliverability. So what does this look like, okay? If you go over here into the handy dandy script editor, and let's say we want to say, hi, first name. Very common way to open up an email. If you do an open bracket and a closed bracket, and then you put a line in between, hopefully this can be visible. I know this is really small. So you do hi with a open bracket, or close bracket, or open bracket, close bracket, line in between, and I do hello. So do you see open bracket, hi, line, hello, close bracket? Hopefully that makes sense. What this will do is it'll randomly say hi or hello in your email. So now if I go to the preview section here, it says hi. If I go to the next one, it might actually, I don't think spin tags actually showed in this editor view. So let me go over to the final review here. You can see this one says hi, Dan. This one says hello, Justin. So it's randomly picking hi or hello. Now, and I can do this as many times as I want. So let me zoom back in. I can do hi, hello, hey. So now it's going to randomize between hi, hello, and hey. Now you might be asking, Matt, what is the purpose of this? Because the purpose of this is not to split test. If you really want to split test and use the add variant, the purpose of spin tags is that if you're sending high volume cold email, you do not want your emails to look identical to each other just with the change of a couple of variables, because then you can get flagged for spam. Your copy can get flagged as spammy copy. So if you add these little random snippets across your entire email, this will help improve your deliverability. So if we do this in, we can do this in an intro part. We can also do this in a subject line. So I can put subject line 1, and then ABC. And so half the people get subject line 1, half of them will get ABC, and then it's get randomized and randomized and randomized. And this is how you can have a lot of randomization in your cold email that will help you get around spam filters. So variables, then you got spin tags. So you have, hi, hello, and then hey, right? And a third of the people get hi, third will get hello, third will get hey, and then you do this over and over again, and your emails will be very random and very unique and look humanly written. So that's spin tags check. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about is liquid spin tags. So similar name, different principle. So the point of liquid spin tags is, let's say hypothetically we had a lead list of 100 people, and of those 100 people, let's say 50 of those people have a first name in the list, first name, and then 50 of them there is no name, right? Let's say you just scraped a list and half the people have something true or half a variable and the other half don't. Now, one option is that you could separate these out into separate campaigns, which can work. Alternatively, what you can do is keep them all in the same campaign, and you just make a liquid spin tags conditional formula that inserts the first name for half the people and inserts a different line for the people with no name. So I'll give an example of how this is useful. So let's say, again, use this hypothetical. If we just say, hi, I'm going to put FN for first name. The problem with doing something like this is, for the people who have no name, there will be this kind of like awkward space here because there's supposed to be a name. And so you might want to start your email slightly differently if they don't have a first name. You might want to say hi there, right? So maybe for the people that you have no name, you say hi there, right? And the people that do have a first name, you say hi first name. So how do you accomplish this? You use a liquid spin tags. So the way that you do this, I'm just going to copy and paste a snippet that I did for a different example. So you do this colon, curly brace, double curly brace, and then if, hashtag if, and then the condition. So if first name, close, close. So this is basically saying if first name does exist, then I'm going to simplify this so this doesn't get too complicated. Okay. If first name exists, say hi first name. Otherwise, if first name doesn't exist, then put the comma here. So hi, comma, hello, comma. Do you see the difference? Because if we just had no liquid spin tags, it would say hi, 2 awkward spaces, and then a comma, compared to if, in this case, now we have liquid spin tags. So if first name does not exist, it just says hi, comma. I'll get rid of the spin tags again to make this less complicated. So condition A, first name exists, hi first name. Condition B, first name doesn't exist, hi, comma, and then it looks normal. So you can do this with any variable. So as an example, if you have a personalized first line, then you say if, personalized first line, then put the personalized first line. And if not, then you put a generic kind of burner sentence. So this is like a different way that you can kind of, make sure that you're having kind of conditional logic around if you have something in or not in your campaign. So that way you can maximize your effort. So that is how you use the sequence editor to do first names and whatnot. One other quick thing I'll talk about in the sequence editor is you have this handy dandy email templates tab. So if you're looking for ideas on how to, write campaigns and leverage variables and stuff like that, you can click through these and you can get kind of a lay of the land of all kinds of different angles that you can use, and you can select these templates. So that's how you use the sequence editor, liquid spin tags, and variables. All right, how to edit campaigns mid-campaign. Now I know these campaigns here I have are not launched, but the principles are true. So let's pretend we have this campaign here. Actually, I'm not afraid to launch it because it shouldn't launch. I just don't want to hit these people with this not very good email. So let's go ahead and start this campaign and just press skip. And now we have this handy dandy campaign that is active, and we want to edit it. Now, if you want to edit your campaign, you can edit a campaign while it's active. So I can just literally click in here, press the pencil, press sequences, and change the stuff around. Now, as long as the emails aren't sent, you can edit them. So if you want to edit any of your campaigns mid-campaign, this is all you got to do. If you want to add more leads, press import leads. That's all you got to do. If you want to change the leads out, so let's say I have this campaign and I want to filter for leads that haven't been contacted, or I want to like change stuff, I can delete these leads, I can upload leads, you can do all this stuff. You can filter here. So if I want leads that have not been contacted yet, and I'm like, oh, let me change these people out real quick, I can press apply, delete them, download them, do whatever. So if you want to edit stuff mid-campaign, it is very easy. Now, if you can also, what I'd recommend you do is you probably want to pause the campaign. So if I press pause, now the campaign is paused. So I'm not breaking anything if it's midway through sending. If I go over here, I can also stop a campaign. Now, if you stop a campaign, you actually can't go in here and like resume it. You might be thinking, well, how do I resume it? To resume the campaign, this took me a couple years, I think, to figure this out. All you have to do is go back to the final review section and you can press start campaign and rerun it. So that's how you like pause and change stuff kind of mid-campaign. Now, other things that you want to understand too, I'm just going to tie this together in this video, is the sending logic. So one thing you might be wondering as you're editing these campaigns mid-campaign is when is the next set of leads going to get sent out? So Smartlead has this handy dandy send prediction feature here, so you can see when it thinks like the next send of leads is going to go out depending on what you have and send volumes and a bunch of other stuff. But you can also see when the campaign is supposed to trigger up here. So you can see next trigger, January 12th, 2026, 8:04 a.m. EST. So if you want to know when your next set of like campaigns is going to get sent out, or your next set of emails is going to get sent out, you can do that. You can also check your trigger logs so you can see when your last set of emails was sent out. So if you want to monitor anything real time, you can see that all right in this section here. So that is how you adjust your campaigns mid-campaign. This is how you also check what the analytics look like and if you want to change anything around. And on top of this, if you want to edit the sender accounts that you have in your campaigns, all you have to do is go into the campaign setup, press edit accounts, and you can add or remove email accounts. Now, one thing to note here is that if you have this email account in this campaign, which is a very common thing to happen, and let's say it's halfway through a sequence, it sends the email 2, but there's an email 3. When you pull this person out, that lead will not receive an email 3 because your email has been removed from the campaign. So just keep in mind that whenever people are midway through sequence, that can affect how sequences are sent. So let's say you have a campaign, it's like halfway done, and you swap out all the inboxes. If it's midway done and there's no new leads to be contacted, the campaign's not going to proceed because those mailboxes have been entirely removed and it's all within the same thread. So just keep that in mind whenever you are changing out your email accounts mid-campaign. Other than that, is very straightforward. If you want to add or remove stuff, you can just tick the box, press save accounts, and go on your merry way. Troubleshooting campaigns. So let's say you launch a campaign, you're not sure why stuff is not performing the way that you want. I'm going to talk about how you troubleshoot it. So first off, if you go over into your email campaigns tab, you can click into a campaign that you want to troubleshoot or look at. One of the easiest ways that I personally, again, I run an agency. I've seen so many campaigns, thousands of campaigns at this point. Really good metrics that you can troubleshoot is just looking at these report numbers right here. You can modify this by pressing this little thing up here so I can see all the leads and all the other stats. But taking a look at these stats will give you a lot of insights. I have benchmarks that I like to measure by. So like, should be shooting for a 1% reply rate, less than 3% bounce rate, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to impose all of my, numbers on top of you. So instead, what I'm also going to show you here is this performance tab. So if you click into the campaign, you can see this performance tab here. It'll show you all kinds of information on your campaigns. So if you have sending time discrepancy, if your triggers aren't going right, how many leads are in campaign in progress. One really common mistake I see people make is that they're curious why their campaign performance degrades, but it's because they're sending mostly follow-ups instead of reaching out to new leads. And on average, when you reach out to new leads, that performs better, or that they realize they're not sending as many emails as they think they should be. And so this performance section helps you kind of spot that. You can also see down here any discrepancies, any accounts that are disconnected, blacklists. Keep in mind that blacklists don't necessarily think that they're not necessarily a bad thing. So you can see here, you're not blacklisted, but also if you are blacklisted, that might not inherently be a bad thing. So keeping an eye on your performance here can be very helpful. Another thing that you can troubleshoot in your email campaigns and other things to troubleshoot is if you go over here into your edit campaign section and go to your final review, you can do two things here in the bottom right. You can run a spam test. This is really useful, and it's talked about in a different module here on running spam tests to see how your accounts are performing. If your accounts are getting good performance and they're not landing in spam, that's a good thing. That shows your accounts are healthy or likely to be healthy. Now, on the other hand, if your accounts are all kinds, landing in spam everywhere on the simulated test, that also means that your campaigns could be performing poorly for that reason. So if you click into run spam tests, it'll bring you to this editor here where I can click in, I can press save and next, I can fill in all the data, I can view the mailboxes, and I can just press save and run test, and it'll run a quick test for me, a manual one, where once this is completed, I'll be able to see if my mail was landing in spam or not. So while that's running, one thing you can check, let me go back here real quick just so this can get pulled up. You can see here, this hasn't run yet, but if we see that a lot of people are landing the inbox or spam folder, that can give us insights. And one last thing you should always check before you go live is going here into the final review and sending yourself a test email. So if you press send test email, you can send a test email and it'll show you exactly what the mail is going to look like before it gets sent out, which is really useful. You'll be able to see stuff like signatures and other things that might not be able to be seen in most other views inside of Smartlead. So that's how you troubleshoot your campaigns. In short, use the deliverability test, look at the performance tab, and also check your stats and also send yourself test emails. You'll be able to see a lot of data there. And then also when you have those stats, if you want to compare it against what other people are doing, these stats are really useful for you to collect or keep in spreadsheets so you can compare your performance over time and also compare it to analytics over time. So in this tab here, I can look at your analytics by time, and this will give you a lot of insights if your campaign performance is the same as it's always been, if it's degrading, or if it's improving. So that's how you troubleshoot your campaign. All right, so the master inbox system, more specifically, what it is, how it works, and all the different features inside of it. So let's just get straight into it. First of all, what is the master inbox? The master inbox is simply one place where all the email accounts centrally pool all their responses. So you will have one central dashboard where you can respond across every single email account. So in layman's terms, instead of logging into 50 million different email accounts, it's just in all one place. So to access the master inbox, when you're logged into Smartlead, it'll be over here on the left-hand side that says master inbox. Whenever you are greeted by this wonderful dashboard, you will see a bunch of different features in here. So first, we'll start on the left-hand side. You see inbox, unread replies, which is exactly what you think it is. It's the replies that have not been opened. Drafts by agent, which we'll get into their smart agent here in a second. Sent, so if you want to view specific conversations, even if someone hasn't replied, but you sent the email, you can check that out there. Important, if you want to tag important leads. Snoozed, if you want to revisit leads later. Reminders, same idea. Scheduled, so scheduled sent message. Archived, same idea. If you want to toss in a separate bin, you throw it there. And untracked replies. This is basically all the replies that are coming to the email account that are not associated with the lead in a campaign. So if you have Johnny and you send Johnny an email and Johnny replies, it'll be in your main view. Now, if Google sends you a random product update, that will be in the untracked replies unless you are emailing Google. So this is a high-level overview. On the left-hand side, you also have views here. So what a view is basically a custom subset of the inbox. So if I want just interested replies, I can name this interested replies. I can make it public. So if I want my team members to view it as well. And then I can go over into the category section and say, I specifically want people that are tagged as information request, interested, meeting request, and maybe other tags that I created like client feedback needed and meeting booked. And by creating this view, now I can click in here and view only the quote unquote interested replies, or whatever you might do. You could filter this by client or all kinds of different things. But before I get ahead of myself, let me click into a response so I can show you exactly what I mean here. So I'm going to click into this not interested response here. This is what you're going to see. So you're going to see your email down here below. I can click in and see the full email that I sent out. I can see the campaign that's a part of, and then I can click in and see the full message from the lead, their email, and all their other details. Now I can also go in here and press reply. So if I want to respond to the lead, now it pops open into a nice clean view. And if I move my beautiful face here, you can see after you type whatever you so please, blah, 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 I can press send now and send it on over. Now there's a bunch of other features, main email stuff like CCC or CC, BCC. I can change out any templates I'd like. I can change the text style, all the stuff you'd expect from an email editor. And I can also schedule this response, send a reminder, or I can even have AI generate a response for me if I would like. Now I'm going to move my face back over. There's other things you should be aware of. In the top right hand, you have the lead category. This is very, very, very useful to be able to filter people that are interested, not interested, or any other custom tags. If you want to configure custom tags, so as you see here, I have some custom tags. If you click into your icon in the top right and press settings, then you go on over to the, lead categories here. You can configure custom categories. As you can see here, I have meeting booked. I have client feedback needed. Those are custom tags I have set up for me. So that way I can tag leads appropriately. Now there's all kinds of other stuff you can do here. You can create a deal out of this. So if you want to add it to Smartlead CRM, let's say I want to add this guy over here to a deal, or I input a deal value and say this guy's worth $10,000. I can press save. This is configured now. So if I want to view this in the pipeline, I can see that value. Task, if I want to assign a specific task, I can do that here. So it's just kind of like a note of what to do. There's also notes. So if I want to leave a note, like we use this commonly for, managing call logs. So it's like, I called this guy yesterday or whatever. You can leave that there and then it'll pop up in your view. You can also push leads to subsequences or to other campaigns. So if I have another campaign I want to push it to, I can press that button, ship this guy over to another campaign if I want to do some custom stuff here. In the More tab, most common use cases, I like to use this red on red thing to keep track of what needs to be responded to. Additionally, you can push the subsequence. You can block the lead. So if you don't want to contact this guy ever again, you can do that. Here's where you can archive and snooze people. If, for example, I want to make sure I never reach out to this guy again, I can go ahead and mark as do not contact. And then I can add this person to the block list so I never email them again. So I'm just going to do that for the sake of the demonstration. And you can also mark as important, view the lead details over here, and copy the email. So that's a super quick rundown. To be fair, a lot of these features are really intuitive. You just got to know where to click and why it might be useful. So the other commonly used things, if you press this refresh button here, it'll let you kind of refresh it so you can get a more real-time view. If someone emailed me in the last 2 minutes, I can press this and it'll pop up. Filter, so this is basically like the views tab, but just not a customized view that I can reference later. And then you can configure this one time. So again, if I want to replicate the interested replies, I could do that there. And that's really it. That's like a super high level. It's really simple and intuitive once you kind of get used to it. So again, let's say I go over here, this person's information request. So this person's interested and they have a question. So all I need to do is send over a response, blah, 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 blah. Press send now, and it will get shipped out. Now, again, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to send out any replies, but this is how you would do it. So that's really it. The views are really, really helpful if you want to reference specific sections of leads. A really common question I hear people have is, well, how do I get notified inside of Slack? So there's a feature here under settings and under, I believe it's webhook. So you can click in here and you can add a Slack automation. So if someone's interested, then you get a Slack notification. That's really useful. But other than that, it's really just about monitoring the master inbox and responding as quickly as you can. Now, other features that you should be aware of. untracked replies. So I went over this quickly so you can see a bunch of DMARC reports here because, this isn't associated with any lead. You can occasionally find leads in here. So the use case or the reason why a lead would populate in here is, let's say I email the CEO of a company and the CEO doesn't respond, but he forwards it over to a manager and the manager responds. And if the manager is not a lead in the campaign, it won't populate in the main inbox, it'll populate here. So in a use case like that, you can press associate leads to, look for the lead or the campaign that it was a part of, and then try and find the specific lead that was like the CEO in that case. And if you press save, it'll ship that conversation back over to the main conversation, and you will be able to respond to it in the main inbox. So this is really useful if you want to monitor all traffic inside of here. So the other thing that I want to show that is the last intuitive or the thing that might require a little bit more information is the AI response bot. So if you want to set up a customized smart agent to be able to respond to leads on your behalf, you can press this learn more button here and you can configure a smart agent. And what a smart agent will do is you can either set it to draft replies or reply completely on your behalf. So let's say I want to book meetings on our behalf, and I want to do it just for a specific campaign or across my whole account. So I'll just do it across my whole account. I can go over here to do this on every single response, or I could do it to specific lead categories. So let's say I only want it to respond to leads that are tagged as interested, information request, or etc. Then I can do that, press continue, and then reply modes here. So we can have it either auto send replies if you don't want to touch everything and leave it on autopilot, or I can press manual reply preview. Now I realize my face was blocking the continue button, not that that was that important of a piece of information, but let's say we're not feeling super friendly with the AI. I want to make sure everything is reviewed before it press sends. Then I can do that and press continue here. I can pick the tone. So I can want, if you're reaching out to mid-market, executives or mid-market managers at mid-market companies, you want to sound very professional, you can do that. If you want to sound more casual or friendly, that can also be an approach. And if you want a short, medium, or long length, you can pick all of that. So I'm going to press friendly and medium. And then also this is where you can feed all the context of the different AI so it knows everything about what it is responding to. So you can give personalized communication style, business context, objection handling, resource about your business. This is really helpful. And after I press continue here, you can give a calendar link. So that way it can also try and send links and book completely on your behalf. So after you fill out all this information, now you can deploy the agent to, again, either respond completely on your behalf or draft replies. Now this is really cool because it takes a lot of the manual labor out of this. I can give this a name. If you're on an agency, you can make a different one for each one of your clients. And then after I press deploy agent, which again, I'm not going to do here because I don't want to mess a bunch of stuff up, then it can go out and throw your drafts in this draft by agent section, and it will load a bunch of stuff in here. So at a super high level, that is the master inbox. You can respond across all of your accounts, whether that's hundreds of accounts or thousands of accounts. You can send emails using AI. You can automatically draft emails. You can set tasks and reminders. Also, the system does a really good job of detecting when people are out of office. Now, this was talked about in the campaign settings, but if someone, this case, this is an out of office, but it's more of like a deactivated account. In the cases where they are out of office, I'm trying to find one where they're actually out of office, not just retired, and they're actually coming in office again. You can pause here. Here we are, finally an example. So we can see here, this is someone who said that they're out of office and they're returning on the 12th. So you can see here, Smartlead was smart enough to read that response, see that they're out of office, and pause them until they're back on the 12th. So that way they're not completely sent out, or it's right before then. So that way to email them again, which is really intelligent on their behalf. So super high level, that's what this looks like. If you want to reactivate someone in a campaign, you can push them to lead. Everything is here. It's pretty intuitive. The main kind of features here are all kind of laid out. And the main things that I use, I'll just tell you as someone who uses the platform every single day and has sent millions of emails out of this platform. The main things that I end up finding myself using a lot are the mark is on red feature, so I know to reference it in the future, the views, the untracked replies, the lead categories. This is really, really, really helpful with filtering. And also leaving notes, among also replying and doing all the other fancy stuff as well. So that's a quick overview of the master inbox. Again, I kind of went through this pretty quickly in 10 minutes. There's a lot of features. When you click around and dig in, you will find the stuff that is most unique and suited to you. And a lot of these tags are already populated because of stuff that is referenced in the campaigns module, so you can watch that. But overall, this is a very clean and unique view that allows you to manage hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, or however many replies you please in a nice central view. So that wraps up the master inbox module. All right, I'm going to be going over analytics, reporting, dashboards, all the fancy stuff that shows you the stats inside of Smartlead. So to access the analytics, or at least the big boy analytics, you can go over here on the left-hand side and press Global Analytics, and this is where it'll show you so much data about your campaign. So if you click here, we're on the new version. Again, the UI might be slightly different, but it's generally the same stuff. You can see your performance metrics across all campaigns, specific campaigns, all accounts, specific accounts, whatever you want to see. So if you want to do it by specific dates, so let's say we want to do in the worst week of the year, which for cold email, which is right around Christmas, where you get the least amount of interested replies or whatever, then you can select that here. You can see the data. So this is a account. I'll do this last week or so. And so I can see the stats by day. I can see the reply rate. I can see the bounce rate. I can see the pause reply rate. I can see all kinds of data. Now, if I want to do it on specific campaigns, I can uncheck this and do it on 2 campaigns. I could do it on 3 campaigns. I could do it on however many campaigns I'd like. I can do it across clients. So if you're on an agency and you want to see specific client campaign results, you can press that and you will see all the results there. Now, under lead stats, this is where you can see what the breakdown of the responses are that you're getting and what the tags are. So you can see 5 people are tagged as information requests, 3 is interested, 1 is meeting requests, 76 out of office, 11 is wrong person, blah, 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 blah. I can see new leads, follow-up leads. I can view all the details. I can see the differences by specific recipients. So you can see Gmails. We sent was this 20,000 emails and got a 0.67 reply rate. On Outlooks, we sent 7,000, got a 0.46. Can view all the details, can drop this down in as much detail as I want between specific tags, and then I can see specific breakdowns between specific tags. So this is really useful if you just want to get way into the data. This is helpful if you want to see, let's say, which inbox is performing better than another, which campaign is performing better than another. If you have team members, you can also invite your team members and see performance across them. Now, if I want to see breakdowns on specific email accounts, I can see that right here. I can check by tag. I can change the columns. I can look by domains if I'd like instead of specific email accounts. I'm going to move my face here so I can get out of the way. But you can see mailbox stats, so how many mailboxes you have, mailboxes without warmup, campaign stats, campaign analytics, top performance. So much data here. So much data here. Now, if you want to, dive any deeper, that's what all these specific filters are for and what all the drop downs and click-ins and all the other stuff. Now, you can also use the APIs to access detailed analytics data. So there's lots of ways you can do this. But if I want to click in specific campaigns, click in specific tags, click in specific email accounts, there is so much data here. Now, alternatively, if I want to check, for example, warm-up data, I can click into the email accounts tab here, and I can click into a specific email account. I can view all of the warm-up stats, so what the percentages are, what the scores are, all this type of stuff is available inside of Smartlead. So if you want to view the data, in short, it is easily visible through the Global Analytics tab and through the email inbox tab as well. Now, you may or may not be asking, Matt, I love these stats, but is there any way I could get this in some other place that's not Smartlead's dashboard? And the answer is yes, you can. You can do this using APIs. So inside of Smartlead's Help Center, which you can access by clicking in the bottom right, which my face is covering again. So moving on over, if you click over into this Help Center, you can go and find the all kinds of different stuff. You can search for help, or you can just Google Smartlead Help Center and you'll find their help documents. If you click into here, they have 2 sections here that's relevant. 1 is analytics and reporting, and 2 is API integrations and webhooks. So under analytics and reporting, we can see all these detailed articles. So specifically, how do I replicate campaign UI using the API? And so you can see there are 2 APIs you can use here, and it shows you all the different endpoints. So you can filter by open account, unique sent, click count, reply count, sequence count, total count, drafted, track settings. There's so much campaign lead stats. They show all kinds of different stuff here. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not extremely technical, but I bet you it is, since it's 2026 or later as the time of you watching this video, you can use a tool like GPT, Cursor, Gemini, Claude, something like this. Paste in these help docs, tell it to spit something out for you, and I bet you it'll get you closer than I probably could. And in the same case, you also have this wonderful API documentation here as well. So if you want to pull in all this data, I have this personally. Again, I run an agency. I have this pulled in via Airtable. So that's kind of the main data warehouse. But there's also tools like Supabase. There's also other platforms you can use as well. I know there's like a bunch of no-code tools you can use, Make, all kinds of different tools you can use to pull this data. So if you want to find all the different nuances and stuff, you can find a lot of that stuff in the Help Center. So you can find all of this different data in their documentation. Now, one last question you might be asking is, Matt, this is awesome, but I want to get specific campaign level data, and I want to see the leads and the statuses and the places that they are and how I can see all that real-time data. So as an example, you have a campaign, you want to export the leads that are interested from that campaign, and you don't want to use all the fancy APIs. That's where you can just pop into the email campaigns tab section here, click into your campaign of choice, go under lead list here, and you can do nice filters so that you can find specific leads that fit your criteria. So as an example, let's say I want just the leads that have expressed interest. So I'm going to filter for leads that are tagged as interested specifically. I can press apply and it will show me all the leads, which in this campaign, there are 7 leads. I can press download a CSV. Now I have these 7 leads. Alternatively, if I just press download a CSV, it'll show me a bunch of different columns with a bunch of different stuff. So this is really useful. I use this all the time if I want to find specific details about specific accounts. So let's say as an example, I want to compare the recipient reply rate compared to Google and Microsoft. So let's say I send 10,000 emails and I want to know if Google is outperforming Microsoft as a recipient or vice versa. I can download leads based off of mailbox provider type. So I'm going to press Gmail here, press apply. I can see how many of the Gmail people replied and how many people Outlook replied. So there's all kinds of different unique features here. This is how you can get it done on a campaign level, and that is how you can export data, get detailed analytics, and make sure that everything is done nice and sweet here in Smart Leads Analytics tab. All right, we're going to be talking about Smart Leads CRM and deal kind of pipeline structure here. So that way you can keep track of the leads you're emailing. You can view this over here on the left-hand side where it says CRM. And when you click in here, you're going to see this nice little funnel. So this is kind of meant to be used as a way that you can track all your responses by the tags inside of here or by any custom tags you create. So on the left-hand side, Smart Funnel, this is where you can see this kind of pipeline Kanban type of view. And then you can press all leads and see all the leads you have across all your campaigns. You can search them. So if you want to search them, you can do that there. Now, under this Smart Funnel, which is where we're going to be focusing most of our time, you can create custom pipeline stages. So as an example, let's say I want to track interested replies. I'm going to name a column interested, and then I'll map lead categories for people that are interested. And when I press create, or I can do multiple, by the way, so meeting request, interested, whatever. When I press create, it'll populate all of these people. Now, if I want to click in, let's say I want to click into a specific lead or a specific conversation, I can do that. And now I can see all of the leads details. And so if I want to keep track of where people are in the pipeline, this is really, 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 really useful. So you get this master inbox type of view, can track the deal value, track any sort of tags or add any sort of tags, check where they are in the campaign, respond, etc. And then if I want to pop back out or change the status, I can pop back out. And now we are back here. Now, if you want to make a custom type of CRM, so let's say I have my default CRM here and I want to just track post-call leads. So I want this, this CRM stage here. I can make a CRM and call it leads I care about. So just the important leads. I'll select all the different campaigns. So you can do that, or you can do it by clients. So now if I create CRM here, now I have this custom CRM view. So if I click in, let's say in this view, I want to hide, or I can filter by all these options here. Let's say I want to hide all the replies, the sends, And the new leads, I just want the interested leads. And then now I can make another one, call it, meeting completed. And then I can make a custom category. Now I don't have this set up, but inside of my account, I can make a custom category. I'll just do this instead. Let's do like meeting booked. Can change the color. And then I will map the reply category as meeting booked. I can press create. And now it'll show me the leads where I have a call booked. And then I can, again, track this pipeline stage here, move leads in between these. So let's say I just want to move this lead ended up, maybe I make a closed deal one and this guy paid me money. I can move that over here. If I want to change the deal value because maybe this guy is more valuable or whatever, I can press this, change the number. And again, you can configure this all through this section here. Now under the all leads tab, I'll briefly go over this. Same idea, just a little bit of a different view. I can click in, see the lead, see the conversation, same idea, but it's not as clean if you're trying to truly use this as a CRM compared to using the main CRM. So if I go back now to the Smart Funnel, now I can see all this stuff here. Again, I can adjust the different filters. Let's say I only want people to have a certain deal value, or create on a certain date, have a certain tag. I can apply these. And this is how I can have a nice, clean CRM view where I can view all the leads, see where they are, respond to the leads I care about, and have a nice compact view where everything is tracked. So that's a CRM in a super, super high level, all the different stages and ways you can use it. And then you can keep track of all your leads. How to access your API key for Smartlead. That way you can build a bunch of cool automations if you're technical enough to do that. So Smartlead has a bunch of different API endpoints you can call. That way you can make wonderful automations, pull data, or do all kinds of stuff with their API key. So to access it, you log into your Smartlead account, click on your little icon on the top right, and click on settings. And over here on the left-hand side, there is the API key management section here. So this is how you can find your API keys. So if I click on this eyeball here, it'll show me my API key, which I'm going to regenerate it just in case after this video. But I'm not going to do that here. If you want to copy your API key, you press the little API key copy button. Or if you made a video like this one and you don't want people using your key or you're worried about that, you can reset it here. Now, if you are on a higher tier plan, which I am not on, you can create custom client keys. That way, if you're on an agency and you want your clients to be able to access just their Smartlead instance, not your whole account, you can click that button there and ta-da, you will have made your own client API keys. Now, I'm not very technical. However, for all the technical people that want to understand the API key in a lot of depth, if you click on the documentation here, it'll pull up to this amazing help doc section here where you can see all of the different API keys or the API endpoints that you can call, all the different nuances of it, all the different parameters, all of this stuff here. Now, if you're less technical like me and you want to still leverage this, I'm sure you could download all of this, throw it into a tool like Cursor or Claude Code or any other tool like that. I'm not endorsing any of those, by the way. You can throw it into your AI model of choice. You can take all of these and throw it in there. And that way, for you less technical folk, you can get something done with this. But in any case, this is where you can find all the many, 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 many different API endpoints inside of Smartlead. You can search stuff and check that all out here. So that is how you leverage the API inside of Smartlead if you want to build any automations. Continuing on, we're going to be talking about how you can build automations using webhooks. So same thing, if you log into Smartlead and you want to access this webhook section here, log in, click the icon in the top right, click on settings, and then click on over to webhook on the left-hand side. Now you will be able to use webhooks. So if you're going to use Make, N8N, Zapier, anything that uses webhooks, this is where you can have that set up. Now, to create a webhook, it's as easy as pressing Add Webhook. Now, you can name the webhook, add the webhook URL. You can click whether you want this to be true on an account level, on a client level, or on a campaign level, depending on your needs. So if you're doing this for a specific client, for your whole account, you can do that here. Now, if you want to see what triggers this webhook, you can press on the event type. So as an example, if an email is sent, then fire off this webhook. Or in the case of, an email bouncing, if you want a notification, you can do that here. Now, I can't send a test to a webhook because I don't have an endpoint here, but if you use any tool that has a webhook URL, you paste that in here and you will be able to use this. When you send the test webhook, you will be able to see test data inside here. Now, if you want to view the technical JSON body sent, you can click into this little article here and you will see all the fun technical stuff that goes over my head. So you can click that there and you'll see that. Now, for you people out there that want notifications inside of Slack, they have this handy dandy Slack button. So again, if you want stuff popping into your Slack, let's say anytime someone responds as interested, so I can go over here, let's say lead category updated to interested. Okay, I can do that. I can press, put my Slack webhook, which again, there's an article here on how to do this, name it and press add. So now every time someone is tagged as interested, it'll pop into your Slack. That way you'll get real-time notifications whenever interested leads come in. Or maybe you just want a notification when every lead comes in. So you can go over here, email reply, and whenever someone responds to any one of your emails across any one of your campaigns, that'll do that. Or if you just want it for a specific campaign or a specific client. All these features are in here. And then once you press add, it will be nice in this dashboard. That way you can edit in the future and configure any webhook. So that is webhooks inside of Smartlead. Integrations. We're going to talk about all the different native integrations inside of Smartlead. So to access the native integrations, when you log in, you'll see on the left-hand side, this big button that says integrations. You can see your integrations. There are currently 5 at the time of the recording of this video, which is HubSpot, Clay, ListKit, LeadMagic, and Outbound Sync. HubSpot is a CRM. Clay is a tool that is useful for automating specific outbound stuff, personalizing stuff. ListKit is a data provider. LeadMagic is a enrichment tool / data provider, I think. I know it's an enrichment tool, and they also do a bunch of other stuff. And then Outbound Sync is a tool that integrates your Smartlead account with different CRMs so you can get a very deep integration. So to connect any one of these apps, you go ahead, you press connect app, and it will prompt you to connect it via an API or a OAuth type of thing here. I do not want to connect a HubSpot account because I don't want to leak a bunch of data here. But if I want to do that, I press connect app. Same thing with Clay. You do all that. And then after you click in and press connect app, it'll give you more in-depth features that you can configure. So with HubSpot, you can set a feature, I believe, where if someone's interested, it creates a deal, stuff like that. This is true across all of these. So if you want to create or add a native integration, it's as simple as logging into your account, clicking on the app that you want, pressing connect app, and then being able to leverage whatever wonderful things that app has for you to have an easy experience inside of Smartlead. All right, I'm going to talk about smart agents, basically what they are, how they work, and show you a live example. So smart agents are effectively a workflow builder inside of Smartlead, and you can kind of create these AI agents inside the platform that automatically execute things. So you can see here, there are some templates here at the bottom that you can reference. So as an example, if I want to build a workflow whenever someone responds in a Smartlead campaign and it pushes it to HeyReach so I can connect with them on LinkedIn, I can use this template. I can use this template if I want to automatically get a blocklist, notification inside of Slack from Smartlead. You can also use all their million different integrations, see all the different use cases. So you can connect it to Airtable, you can connect to Apollo, Close, all kinds of different other platforms. You can see a lot of them are coming soon, and a lot of them are implemented. So you can see Slack, big one, Sheets, HeyReach, Google Drive. You can also see Airtable, Close, Apollo. These are all integrations that you can use. Now they have a bunch of templates. So if I want to use specific templates that they have inside the platform here, I can do this. Or if I want to build stuff from scratch, I can do it from here. So I can use natural language and just talk to it. So I want you to send me a Slack notification of my top performing campaign at the end of each day from all the campaigns inside of my Smartlead account. I can press start building, and the smart agent, being smart, will start to build this. Now you can see we can set the triggers, so I can do this either on a specific event or a schedule. So in this case, I'm probably going to want to do a schedule based. So maybe every 9 a.m. daily, and I can pick New York time zone. I can press this in. I can press proceed, and now it'll know that at 9 a.m. every single day, it will send me a Slack notification with the top performing campaign. So it's going to go ahead and build this. Now it's going to ask me some more questions, or it's going to talk. It's either going to ask me questions or it's going to reason. So as it's working through this, you're going to see it say it's thinking. And while we wait here, I will go back to the Smart Agents tab so you can so I can poke around a little bit more here. If you want to give any feedback, this is, I believe, a newer feature at the time of me recording this video. You can check this out, and you can configure all your stuff here. So if you have an agent kind of set up, you can take this on and off. You can also review your reply agents. So I talked about that in the master inbox module, but if you want to configure your reply agents, that's also done in this tab. Now you can see here, there are some additional questions to make sure I get this done. So what metric defines top performing? One, I'll say just reply rate. Two, analyze, if I can spell analyze, which I can't, analyze just yesterday's, or I'll do analyze a 7-day rolling period. And then three, just the campaign and winning metric. And you can see here, these are actually very useful questions. I was very vague about like what I wanted, and these are great questions to ask. So what is a top performing campaign? How often should we analyze it? Like, should we look at just yesterday's performance? Should we look at the last 30 days? It asks really relevant questions here. And then what information would you like inside the Slack notification? So like, what is the name? What is the metric? And then it just clarified it, and I can press build agent, and then it'll start building all the stuff out here, which is very nice for someone like me, again, who is not very technical. So it's going to complete the first step, next step, next step. We will wait here for a second as this works through. And just like that, it has the full configuration built out for you here. So starts when trigger. So whenever it is 9 o'clock in the morning in New York, it will then get the campaign data inside of Smartlead, so I can configure all this information here. And then it will send a Slack message. So it needs me to connect Slack, choose the channel, put the text, and I can save all this. And then when I'm done, I can run this and or deploy it. Now, again, for the sake of time and me not connecting 3 different API keys or 1 different API key and messing with this too much, all I have to do here after I have this all set up is deploy, and then I can go back and forth with the agent to configure this. Now, it prompts me here to configure Slack, which is really nice. It has a nice little tutorial here for people like me that aren't very smart, so I can click on this and watch the tutorial. Now, again, once the Smart Agent is completed and you like it, you can go over here into your Agents tab and look at all the different agents. Now, since this isn't deployed, I'm not sure this is going to show up here. It actually will. Let's say I configured everything and I want to turn it on. I can tick this box. If I want to edit this, rename this, check the logs, clone it, or delete it, I can press any of these buttons. And just like that, you have a nice handy dandy automation that is running inside of your Smartlead instance. And so that is how you create a Smart Agent. That's how you use the workflows. And if you want to create one, all you have to do is go to Smart Agents and start typing away. All right, how to add client access. So this is specifically for you people that are running software companies that are making kind of like sub accounts for your clients or white labeling this, or for people who run agencies and want to give their clients access to their account without having them have access to everything. So to create a client, you press add client under this client access section here. Now, let's say we have a client and the client's name is Billy. We can put Billy's name here or Billy's company name in here. I'm going to put Matt plus Billy at Smartlead.ai. So this is just a dummy email. And then I'm going to just throw a random password in here. Now, after I create this password, I can assign permissions. So if I want them to have full access to everything within their client sub account, I can tick this box. If I just want them to be able to look at stuff but not change a bunch of stuff around, I can click the second one. If you want to remove categories, they only see interested leads. I can remove all the non-interested lead categories, so they only focus on the ones they need to. If you want to add an external script to, have analytics, support snippets, and anything else to make your, white label experience look good, you can do that. If you want to have specific credits, so, you're kind of reselling Smartlead, you can set lead credits here and email credits here as well. And then you can add a company name. So you can put your company name, their company name, whatever they'll see in this top here section that says Smartlead, it'll populate there. So I can put in a company name and it will show up here. Now you can see it's white on white, but that is what will show up where it says Smartlead. Now, the cool thing here is after I'm going to go ahead and create this client, you can see this client is created successfully. And now I can, have this all set up. Now, depending on the account plan that you're on, you get some of these client sub accounts included. And once you hit a certain threshold, you'll have to pay for them. So just keep that in mind that I believe, I don't know the exact plan caps limits. You might have to pay for it depending on your plan, or if you're on a big enough plan, then it will be included. Now, if you, so now again, if someone logs into Smartlead.ai with the email and password that I just created, then they will get a view where they only see specific stuff. Now, your question might be, what specific stuff? I can go over and let's say this campaign is for a client. I can then press these three dots, add or update client, and then put in the client I just created here, Billy. And now Billy, when he logs in, he will only see this campaign. Similarly for your email accounts, I can make this Billy's email account. So now if I go into management here, assign client, and I put Billy's name here, now Billy will see this email account. So you can pick specific email accounts and campaigns, and they will only see it. So if Billy logs in, he will not see this campaign because he is not delegated access. Now, the other really, really cool thing about the client access feature here is you can have it white labeled. So if you want it not to be under Smartlead's branding, because otherwise the default state here is this login would be visible if I opened up a new tab and logged into Smartlead's website. If you have your website called abc.com, you can make a sub portal so it looks just like it's your own software. To be able to do this, I believe you need to reach out to support. This is not a default thing, but you can also change your branding, make the portal custom, and make it have a seamless experience so you can resell it as is your own. So to be able to do that, you will have to go in the bottom right hand corner and you will have to reach out to support and basically say, hey, I want to have a white label view. How do I do this? And I believe they can also have an app as well. So there's lots and lots and lots of really cool features. If you're on an agency, this is useful. I run an agency. I use this feature. This allows me, in my personal use case, not to say that we're using our own platform, but really just to give unique insights on a client-by-client basis and let them respond to their own emails and see their own campaigns. But if you want to go a step further and have your own software, you can also do that as well. So that is how to use the white label view. Additionally, features like smart servers, you can assign these to specific clients. So if I go here, maybe this isn't the section. There's somewhere, you see me doing this in real time, assign smart servers. Here it is. So if I want to give a dedicated smart server, I can do that specifically on a client level as well. And the way you do that is you click into the client access, click in and press the select smart server, and then I'll move my beautiful face here to go ahead and update it. And now this client will have all their campaigns have a specific smart server. So that is how you use the client access. And if you want to white label it, then reach out to support. All right, how to manage your leads inside of Smartlead. More specifically, how to manage the block list, community bounce, and fixing lead issues you might have in existing campaigns. So if you want to add a block list, click on your name, go to settings, add a block list. This is where you can add a global block list. You can also import CSV files if you want to do this in mass. You can also export the leads, and I believe you can call this with an API as well in the API help docs. Now, when you're running campaigns, let's say I go into this email campaign section here, and I go into this campaign, and I edit the campaign and import some leads. Notice that whenever I import a lead in here, so let me just pull up a random set of leads. There are a few tabs here. These tabs will directly correspond with the stuff you have in your block list. Another important thing to troubleshoot is this community bounce section here. So if you have this disabled, you might see a lot of your leads get filtered out, and that is because people in the community might have had leads bounce, and it's because they did something wrong. And so keep in mind, this community bounce, kind of feature here is dependent on what other people do on the platform, not just what you're doing. And some of this data could be false because it is shared across other users. So keep that in mind. Whenever you go here, go next, you have your campaign nice and ready. You might notice that your campaign is not sending as much as you want. So you can see here that we have predicted 153 sends, but you might not send 153 emails. And the question why, or the reason why might be because of your settings. So if you go to your setup here, please make sure your configured settings here are proper. So under the campaign setting, so if you go here, going a little quick, edit campaign, setup, schedule campaign, make sure that this triggers per day number here is above the number that you want it to be. If this number is, for example, 2 emails per day, then no matter what I have this email account set to here in the daily limit tab, it's not going to send 15, it's going to send 2. But since I have this set to 20 triggers per day, then it'll send the full 15 amount here because there is an uncapped number. Same thing here with max number of new leads per day. 99% of the time when people aren't sending the amount of emails that they want to be sending or their settings are messed up, it's usually because this number is too low, this number is too low, or their email daily limit is too low. And so if you configure all of those settings, oh, and one last place it could be is if you go over into your email accounts tab, you click in, this number could also be too low, your minimum time gap, or too high, I should say. So as long as these numbers, that ratio between those 4 different numbers, you should not have any issues with your campaigns not sending. When in doubt, lower your email send time, like the gap, and raise the maximum limits, and it will send through. Usually the reason why something is broken is because one of those settings is set to be too strict, and as a result, you will not send emails at the rate that you want to be. Now, assuming your campaign is live, you can also see when your next batch of emails is going to get sent out. So it's 11 o'clock on a Sunday. So I appreciate you watching this here, but you can see my next set of emails, if you're curious, is going to get sent out tomorrow at 8:04. And the reason why is because in my setup section here under scheduled campaign, it's set to start at 8:04. So if you have any confusion of how your email sending process, your leads are getting stuck, stuff like that, you need to check this number up here and you will be able to see that data. Another reason why stuff can get stuck is under your setup tab, your modify settings tab here. You are prioritizing a set of leads that is not supposed to be prioritized. So as an example, let's say you set it so that 100% of your emails are follow-ups and you're curious why a bunch of new people aren't getting emailed. It's because you changed the setting right here. So I illustrate this. I know I went through this really, really quick, but in short, if you are not sending as many emails as you think you want to be sending, make sure that your daily limits are configured correctly on the email account level, your time gaps are set up correctly, and your schedule and max number of new leads is set up correctly. And by correctly, I mean there's a big enough threshold. So I'm trying not to use concrete numbers because everyone's campaign volumes might be different, everyone's setup is different, but point being, it's between the ratios of all these different numbers. So that is that at a very high level. Now, if you also want to troubleshoot who the recipients are of your email campaigns, under your lead list tab, you can also see, let's say I want to make sure that I only reach out to people that have, no secure email gateway. I can press apply and see all the people that don't have it. Or let's say I know that whenever I reach people that have proof point, none of the emails land in the inbox. I can click on proof point and delete all these filtered leads. And this could help your email performance increase. So that is a super high level of all the different kind of sub features inside of Smartlead. These are like common troubleshooting requests I get after seeing so many different accounts. Basically, just make sure your email account sender settings are set up. The way you can find this is under email accounts. Make sure that these 2 numbers are set up appropriately, sends per day, minimum time gap. And then under your email campaigns, make sure your setup tab here is configured so that you have this triggers number is as high as you need it to be. The max number of new leads is set appropriately. And from there, you should send the exact amount that you should be sending. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the support section here. So just to recap, double check all your settings and check out, you can slow down this video if you want to see anything over again. All right, I want to talk about all the other wonderful places on the internet that you can find additional help and resource. Now, I hope this whole course module section, everything that you've watched here has been useful, but I want to talk about all the other different places where you can find help. So the first one of these is Smartlead University. So if you go inside of Smartlead in your account, you can click over here in the bottom left and you'll see a wonderful set of modules, one of them made by me and a bunch of other ones made by wonderful people here. This is going to continually get added, I'm sure. And so if you want to watch videos, I have a video here on copywriting. Nick Abraham has one on talent efficiency automation. We have another one here by Ben Wright on video personalized video prospecting, one with Eric, and this will continue to get filled out. So one of these places is Smartlead University. The second place is YouTube. So Smartlead has a YouTube channel with a bunch of beautiful, amazing people here where they have all their different office hours, videos from Vibov himself, and there's plenty of other creators. Now, I don't want to promote my stuff, but I have a YouTube channel and there's plenty of other people here that make great YouTube content that you can watch, and a lot of that is hosted on Smartlead's channel. Another place that I would consider looking at is the Slack community. So just to pull it up, inside of Smartlead's Slack channel here, you can, I think you can find the Slack by going somewhere in their help docs or event. If you just Google Smartlead Slack, I'm sure you can find it. But anyways, you can get invited inside of here. There is thousands of people, 7,397 at the time of me recording this video, that you can talk to, learn from. There's a general chat where people talk about random things. There's all kinds of different channels, people talking about wins, product updates, office hours. Smartlead's team is active here. You can see Vibov, the founder, responding to people. These are messages from users, and so you can see it is very active. Another place you should look for is chat support. So in the bottom right here, if you press how we can help, there's a chat support. You can talk directly to the team. You can send a message. There's also their help documents, which we're going to talk about here in a second, but you can talk directly to the team or their AI bot, I think, that asks you questions before it gets routed to the team. There's news, there's roadmap, there's all kinds of stuff here. So the chat support is a great spot. And then the libraries. If you go over here to the help center, you can find libraries of so many different things. There's like templates inside of here as well, but this Smartlead Help Center has so many different things, API documents, basically everything I talked about here. I know you probably like these videos and seeing my pretty face here, but pretty much everything that I talked about here is in text format, and you can find this all in their help documents. This is where you're going to find most of the very, very, very up-to-date stuff because their team monitors, changes the stuff regularly. This is especially useful for like API integrations and stuff like this. There's so many documents. There's API documentation, like this can just go on and on and on and on about all the different automations and amazing stuff here. So this is an example. If you're trying to do any crazy coding stuff, if you're trying to create automations, this is pages and pages and pages and pages. And let me tell you, I'm not technical, but I would definitely be throwing this into an AI model if I want to build anything. So that kind of wraps everything up here. If you want to be part of the community, join the Slack. There are so many amazing places where you can continue to learn aside from someone like me, and it is all out there. So really appreciate you watching this, and take care.